won't. They need some help, but we'll see how it all unfolds. Still a chance, but yeah, that one hurt for sure.
And I'll say, you mentioned plan flawed, which I agree with. We'll get into the details of that, what we saw. There are certain times, there are certain instances in which your plan just hits, your stuff works.
Yep.
Sometimes you hit blackjack. Sometimes you hit the number. You're playing in roulette. It felt to me like almost every stunt that Oklahoma called hit exactly where it needed to, or the way that it needed to. And that's not necessarily the case, but that's the way it felt watching it. And it felt a lot of times that a lot of the stuff Alabama did, it wasn't going to happen. They would slant themselves out of a play. They bring a pressure from distance, and it wasn't going to be something that was going to be able to get home. And why you brought so much pressure from distance, Greg, when you're playing a team that's probably not going to drop back, because that's not what they can be successful doing. I have no idea why you decided to go with that. Just kind of an odd scenario of what you would want to do. That strategy, along with some of the 3-down stuff where you had bigger individuals, kind of lurking around as creepers, linebackers, so to speak, and then being asked to do things that they might not be comfortable with. A lot of head scratchers as far as kind of the hows and whys, what Alabama put together strategically going into that game against Oklahoma.
Well, the story on Oklahoma is a pretty simple one. Their offensive line has a lot of issues. The run game is something they absolutely have to have because their receivers have been banged up, and the receivers really haven't done a whole lot this year. Anyone. I mean, they've been out most of the year, almost all of them. So that kind of going into it, you kind of know how they're going to try to attack you. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty simple. And it's almost like, I don't know. It's almost like Alabama wanted to show off their coaching acumen a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, well, we can do this defensively. Like, it was a little bit too. And by the way, I saw it earlier in the day too by Ole Miss. Like, good coaches sometimes overthink themselves. And I think sometimes in this game there was a few examples in which they kind of outthought themselves. But ultimately, I mean, it comes down to the execution. I mean, there were a lot of plays there to be made. If you go back and just look at the first drive, for example, with Alabama's offense, I don't know what Jalen's thinking bouncing it to the outside on the 3rd down. Like, you have tons of green grass. If you just follow your left tackle up through the alley, you gain 12 yards, and you honestly might hit your head on the goalpost because you got one man to beat. Instead, you try to bounce it to the outside. You set up 4th and 3 and it's incomplete, or 3rd and 3 and it's incomplete. You know what I mean? It's like just little things. You have multiple drops in the game. Protection was poor throughout the game on the right side. I think the defense was kind of feeling that the offense was out of sync, and Kane was like, man, guys, we got to make a play. Like, we got to do something here because our offense just isn't where it needs to be. So we're going to need to make a play here. So I think his aggressiveness was almost in large part due to anticipating that the offense wasn't going to be able to put a drive together. So needing to get the short field and needing to create something. And that's probably a tough spot to be in. So I don't put all the blame on Kane. I really don't. The blame goes to the offense. I don't really know how else to describe it. It was as bad of an offensive performance as I've seen as an Alabama fan. And I became a fan in 2006. So pretty frustrating. It really was.
And I think there are a lot of things we're going to be able to point to, a lot of things we're going to be able to look at, talk about as to sort of why that offense struggled the way that they did. A couple things that I saw right off the top. Jalen Milroe running the football. We've talked about it a couple times. Not staying or turning north and south and, taking these L turns directly to the sideline. I didn't chart it, Greg, but I would say it's safe to say he left 50 yards on the field. Easy.
Maybe more.
Just stay north and south, and you might have to deal with a little bit more contact. And sometimes I understand protecting yourself, but there were moments he could have gone for another 18 yards and then just slid, and you put yourself in a better situation. The protection,
his first
obviously.
His first run of the game, like on paper, he won't get hit for another 7 yards. He tries to bounce to the outside, loses 2 from where he's originally at. And there's a possibility if he makes number 2 miss, I mean, he's out of the gate. It's like, it had to have been at least 50 yards left on the ground, at least, let alone a couple inaccurates. But I think there's a little bit too much blame going in his direction if we're going to take it just from a slightly bigger picture. Jalen was terrible. I don't know how. I mean, there's no way. There's nowhere else to describe this. Like, he did not play well. But he was not alone. I mean, there were a lot of really bad performances in this game. Several by wide receivers, a couple great catches by wideouts, but some guys that tried to be cool and throw one hand up. Like, you told me about a couple of those. I didn't get to see it live, so I went back and watched it. But you're right, couple one-handed catches where could have easily put two up and probably made a play. It's just bad. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. Jalen going laterally is bad, though. That was definitely an egregious problem throughout the game.
Protection was a problem. Right tackle struggled, which once again you've got these extra bodies that could help you in protection, and didn't really feel like there was a time in which you said, all right, we got to put Robbie Utes over here or C.J. Dupree over here and be able to help out. I will say that the tight ends in general, and I didn't see Utes on the field near as much in this game. I didn't think had a great game blocking, being able to help. I think there was a drop by a tight end. I thought the running backs ran the ball well, and they didn't get a ton of touches in this one. And listen, we try to explain to you guys sometimes the way Greg and I watch it's a little bit different. We don't see the emotion or the flow of the game, and we don't hear what's happening, how things are going down, or who's doing what on the sideline. Like we don't get that. We just watch the plays. But that's a couple of things that stuck out to me. And yeah, like when I watched the film, it was the first one that I watched Sunday morning on the plane. A couple of the one-handed attempts at catches just felt a little bit odd. Obviously, some plays with controversy, people upset about. Don't think that I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. One play doesn't decide a football game. So at the end of the day, that is what it is. But it's
still down 24-10.
It was just kind of sloppy all the way around.
Still down 24-10 in the fourth quarter.
Start of the fourth quarter. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like, the illegal touching was terrible. But I mean, they're still in a 3-touchdown hole when that happens. So I understand the frustration there, but it's more frustration in the fact that how we not get something very simple fixed. That would be what I'm frustrated by, more so than the fact that it was called when it was called and it affected the game the way it affected the game. Like, yeah, I'd be ticked too, but still a 3-touchdown hole that you're trying to climb out of.
Do we need to spend any time on that? Do we need to cover that?
No, they missed it. I don't know what else. I mean, there's not really much more that needs to be said. I mean, I think you missed the call. I haven't seen anything from the SEC or from the office of the officials or whatever. Have you?
No, but
it's coming, I'm sure. But yeah, they missed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an unbalanced formation. The tight end was in line on the right side, so it wasn't like your traditional 3-by-1 set. But the tight end was the one that was covered, not the receiver on the outside. But it is what it is. Move on, and such is life. Unless there's some interpretation of the rule that I don't know, because that could be something too.
I also think too how you play clock's running down. You had to flip the receivers quickly, and there's a little bit of panic there. They all come running over. Not to make any excuses for anybody, but I feel like those were some of the things that were taking place as to maybe why the mistake was made. But yeah, I'm with you. I just I didn't know if there was anything we needed to talk about from that perspective, because there have been a lot of people asking me about it, and I've had pretty much the same responses that I don't know what to tell you. I think it was a miss, but we don't penalty vulture on this show, and not something that we really want to start today. So Milroe goes 11-26, 164 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks, ran the ball 15 times. We talked about the rush yards and kind of what they could have been. Was there a part of that was noticed and maybe you got away from it a little bit? I mean, there were him leaving the pocket some, Greg, but that's a place where you probably feel like you could have lived and been successful. And, he continues to kind of, take things in a direction that's not helping your team. Jan Miller had 12 carries. Justice Haynes had 3 carries. I thought they ran hard. I thought they did a pretty good job blocking as well. I thought you had an opportunity to gain more yards there with those guys, but it just didn't seem to be something that they wanted to lean on.
Yeah, I think that but here's the problem. I mean, there were 23 first half snaps, thereabouts. I mean, like everyone's the 27 first half snaps, excuse me. So everybody and their brother is going to sit there and say, well, this guy needs more, this guy needs more. Well, this game was literally cut and paste from the Vanderbilt game. I mean, it's not like they had some outrageous amount of offensive snaps when the game wasn't, in every down throw mode. That's part of the problem. Like, this is not a team that's built to come back because Jalen's arm doesn't scare that many people unless it's on deep balls. I think Jalen's legs are really good, really, really good. But I don't know, if things don't start well for him, it hasn't been good sometimes in his career. So this game was a carbon copy of the Vanderbilt game, where by the time they wanted to be able to try to establish the run, they couldn't really do it. I mean, this is a team that needs the lead, and if they don't have the lead, they struggle. I mean, as simple as that.
Yeah, a little bit
Which
of a
is
team.
crazy, but it's just the way it's been. They're a bit of a front running group, and that's unfortunate, but it's their character. It's who they are, and it's unfortunately at this point of the season, it's not a whole lot that you can do about it.
All right, so we'll get your feedback on it, 800-239-9569, after we visit with Paul Finebaum on the other side of this next break. So we'll go talk to Paul here in just a moment. We'll move on after that, let you be a part of the show. You can text in 205-834-9450. If you're looking to move into or out of a new home, though, Greg, who should you call?
Meet Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and moved, your company's headquarters moved across country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website's CrockerMovingServices.com. That's CrockerMovingServices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, so we'll take a break, come back. Paul Finebaum gives us his thoughts on where things go next for both Alabama and Auburn right after this on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning into the show. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks945. That's each and every morning. Listen online to jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store. You can find ways to listen, ways to watch there. All the podcasts also set there. And he joins us each and every week from ESPN, the SEC Network. You can hear him 2 to 6 p.m. weekdays right here on Jocks 9845. It's our friend Paul Finebaum.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, crane works, rental works, yeah, the big dog's got it.
Paul Finebaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Finebaum.
Paul, great to have you in on a Monday. Always glad you're with us. And what a weekend it was. How hard, in your opinion, was the SEC hit as it's going to pertain to this year's college football playoff field?
It was a body blow, Cole, because we were hoping, expecting for maybe 5 schools in, and today I don't see it. I mean, again, everybody can argue about the paths and things can change. I get all that, but it's hard for me to believe that you could argue with a straight face for the inclusion of Ole Miss and Alabama this morning, and you know, Texas A&M is a wild card, but other than that, I think the number is pretty well settled on 3.
Yeah, and now the door is open for a second ACC team, like SMU, even in loss in the ACC title game, will probably get in over a 3-loss SEC. So we'll see how that goes, but certainly a demoralizing weekend for many in this weekend's performance. What do you make of what happened in Norman, Paul?
I think it was a complete and total abomination. I don't ever remember in an important game. Listen, we've seen it in unimportant games with inferior coaches, but considering what was at stake, where this team had come from, I cannot remember an Alabama team that looked more clueless, more poorly prepared, and executed as woefully as that. I mean, it was a historically bad performance, and it's really too bad because I thought Kalen DeBoer and his staff had done such a really excellent job of bringing this team back from the brink 5 weeks ago, and it looks to me like it all went down the drain Saturday night.
Paul, what does this do for his perception as the future, and I guess now rebuilding a little bit this Alabama football program moving ahead?
Well, I think it becomes a lot more complex, Cole, because you can't go on these roller coaster rides like Alabama fans have this year and have a very good and confident feeling of the future. And it has been said many times and will be said again about what he inherited. It wasn't the same team as Nick Saban had last year, but the nucleus was, especially at the quarterback position. And to me, this season was about one thing: getting to the playoff. The rare opportunity for the first year in the 12-team playoff, and I felt starting with this first game, it was playoff or bust, and the final votes haven't been counted yet, but it feels like bust is going to be the word.
It's certainly trending in that direction for sure. With what was inherited, I do think this is a bit of a unique situation. When the portal opened for Alabama's open season, and the only guys that they could backfill the roster with were guys from Washington and Michigan. So I do think it's a unique challenge. But where do you think they need to prioritize, their efforts moving forward to avoid a similar fate in the future?
Well, what this staff has to do is fit its needs. They just can't go and cherry pick. It's complex enough, guys, as you well know, just to go out and hire a bunch of free agents and turn them into a team. I know that it may be the final epitaph of what Lane Kiffin did, but I think Kalen DeBoer has to decide what and who he wants to be his quarterback. Is it currently on the roster, or is it coming in, or does he want to go out and fill the gaps. And I think that's where it really begins. And the offensive line came back from the dead and then literally went back to sleep in the most important moment. So, I mean, I think those are where I would start, but he's well ahead of me on that, I hope.
Paul, let's flip to the other side of things from the perspective of Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers. They battle and are able to sneak one out against Texas A&M at home. Keeps bowl eligibility still possible for this season, and they'll have to do it against an Alabama team now that's going to be reeling a little bit. Did it change your opinion much of Hugh Freeze this season and what he's done, and Hugh Freeze moving forward?
Of course it did, because when you get something like that this late, that's what you feed off of. And I just think back to the very same Saturday a year ago when we saw this program reach its lowest point, losing to New Mexico State, coming back, and then letting it all go away the following week on the Gravedigger. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to build on. I mean, I don't know if it exactly how it affects this weekend. I think this game is standalone. Everyone knows what it's all about, although this year it feels a little bit weirder. But I think it made up for some of those disastrous finishes, and maybe because Auburn has lost so many games down the stretch, like that Missouri game, which it had won, like other games which it should have won, that maybe they were built. But I think for that fan base, and that's where I was most impressed, Cole. Not that you're surprised or anyone should be, but to see that reaction, to see the joy in that stadium, midnight where I was watching it, it was really wonderful to see. And I think that's why I know Greg said it a week ago, and a lot of people thought it, that A&M was going into something that was going to be more difficult than just show up, grab the win, and get ready for Texas. So, Hugh Freeze, I believe that helped him from a recruiting standpoint, which is the most important thing right now. So, yeah, it's been a negative season. It's been a lot of disappointment, but something like that can really ignite you in the off season.
It certainly can. Paul, on a little bit of a different angle here, because I think we'll talk so much about Hugh Freeze and Auburn and where they're at here moving forward in the next few days as we lead up to the Iron Bowl. It's the best week of the year, and we're all excited for it. I do want to get your take on Lane Kiffin. They spent a ridiculous amount of money in the portal this year, seemingly circling this year, and they now have 3 losses that are in some ways inexcusable because all 3 of the losses they were in full control of. They completely blew it, for lack of a better word. So how do you anticipate the reaction being with Lane Kiffin and with the missed opportunities that Ole Miss has had now 3 different times?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what has been said about Alabama is applicable here, except this was the year that Lane Kiffin built toward. And I mean, there's no way to look at it positively. And I feel badly because, I mean, we sat here 2 weeks ago, talking about Lane Kiffin finally shedding the reputation. And here he literally throws the best win of his career away by suffering what I think may be the most costly loss. He won't, just like with the Boer, he very well may not have a team this talented. I don't think he will, because Ole Miss hasn't had a team like this in 60 years. So I really don't know where he goes. I think he has a lot of soul searching to do. There's not really a place for him to go right now. I don't think that could change. But I wouldn't be surprised if as Lane Kiffin is walking in the woods Thanksgiving, getting ready for the Egg Bowl, he doesn't try to think about what's next, because I don't know where he goes at Ole Miss with blowing an opportunity with his best team and the best team in Ole Miss in many generations.
All right, Paul, so I kind of want to follow up from Greg's question a few minutes ago that has a little bit to do with what you just said. You've covered college football for a long time. You've talked to some of the greatest coaches that ever lived, between Nick Saban, obviously Bear Bryant. You understand sort of their mindset and a lot of different things. We've talked this morning about coaches sort of out-coaching themselves, getting cute. You just mentioned it, and Greg and I talked about the Ole Miss short yardage plan, some of the things defensively. Texas A&M going in with the pass-first plan against an Auburn defense that just was going to be a bad idea and a quarterback that's not really capable. Alabama playing some different things defensively that just didn't feel like it was going to work. What did some of the greater coaches that you covered in your time say about out-coaching themselves or getting too cute or overthinking things and it maybe being costly in certain games?
Well, the great coaches always they adjust, they adapt. I mean, Bryant switched to the wishbone. You saw Saban bring in Lane Kiffin 10 years ago, but they never got away from the core. And I think essentially, Cole, that's really what defines the very best. Is that they know what their principles are. They know their core. They, process or however you want to describe it, they never deviated. And I think too often you see a DeBoer or a Kiffin in this particular case think, you know what, I'm smart. I'm one of the smart offensive minds in the country. I'm going to just go for broke on something like this, even though it may be low percentage. And I think that's what usually kills them.
It is fascinating, though. It's just amazing. The Ole Miss plan, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot more calls today from Alabama fans and from other fan bases, but maybe you won't hear as much from Ole Miss. But my goodness, if I'm their fans, I'm just sick to my stomach. I was visiting with a few of them because I think that team can win the national championship. I really do. I think it's the most talented team I've seen this year. When they play at their best, nobody's better. I really believe that. The problem is they totally wet the bed 3 different times against 3 substandard opponents, and now will find themselves out of the playoffs as a result. Finally, Paul,
you realize this is a big day for us because he had ruled them out at the beginning of the year because they wear light blue as one of their colors, and he said that they're never capable of winning a national title just because of that. So it's a big day, big step we've taken here.
True or false? They've revved their engine 8 times this year, and 3 times they didn't, and they lost. I think it's because of the powders. But what do I know? Paul, last question for me. Tennessee now finds himself in prime position to make a college football playoff, but for whatever reason, their fans don't seem happy. I don't like. I talked to some Tennessee fans this weekend. They're like, we're not it. They're going to make the playoff, and yet they're still mad. What does that say about not just Tennessee fans, but just the structure and the format of the postseason, where teams are still unsatisfied even in a playoff berth?
Well, I think Tennessee fans, I don't think the reality has struck yet, but I think Tuesday night it will. I think there's still a little bit of shock of how they fell out of it a week ago. So I'm not too concerned about them. If they see themselves hosting a playoff game here in 2 weeks, I think they'll snap out quickly. But I just think they're a little gun shy because of the way the season ended and how everybody wrote them off. And quite frankly, Greg, how almost nobody stood up for them last week.
They're hard to defend last week, which I kind of understand. Other side, Indiana. Let the politicking begin. I don't have a problem with Indiana being included. I really don't. I think there's better teams, perhaps, but Indiana did take care of business when other teams dropped the ball. If we're measuring a 1-loss Indiana against a 2-loss Bama or Ole Miss, 100% I'm taking Bama, Ole Miss, but those teams dropped the ball, so I can understand why the committee might put Indiana in front of them and keep them in the playoffs. So what do you think the evaluation is and should be for Indiana?
Oh, I think you're right. I mean, they're going to get in. You can't make a sound argument about Indiana versus some of the SEC teams because the SEC teams are going to win. The only thing I really resented, maybe because I was on a plane being held hostage, I couldn't really turn it off, was just the politicking by the broadcast team. I mean, it was over the top, and it was really disingenuous. But that's fine. I think it was funny at 3:00 on Saturday. Indiana, in my mind, was about as dead as you could be. But by midnight, they found themselves back. So I think, Greg, all the arguing, all the bloviating over Indiana is over. They're going to get in, and now I can't wait to. I just hope that they get to go to an SEC team home stadium on that Friday or Saturday night, and then I think we can find out what we already know, that the SEC team will beat them badly.
Paul, we always appreciate the time. Thanks for everything this morning, and see you in a few hours.
Thanks, Cole. Thanks, Greg.
Paul Finebaum joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline, as he does each and every Monday. He's brought to you by our friends at Craneworks. Some interesting things to say, a lot to follow up on, a lot to still get to that we haven't yet today, and we'll do that. You can be a part of that next, as today one of those Mondays that the interaction probably going to be a little bit more. We're open to that. 205-834-9450. You text into the show. What are your thoughts on this season's Alabama football team? What can they do moving forward to change your opinion on that? 800-239-9569. If you'd like to call in and be a part of the show on the Buyers Right Hotline, you can do that. We will get to all of your interaction on the other side. You'll have to wait. One thing you never have to wait for, GMAC, is your dental care.
No, you don't. That's because you have Family Care Dental, the urgent care office, where you can be seen the same day. They now have 5 locations to make it easy on you, with brand new location coming to Trussville. So go and check them out. Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, Alabaster, and now open in Trussville. They'll get you in, accepting patients of all ages for routine, or they can also get you in for emergencies, and they can see you on Fridays and Saturdays. It's Family Care Dental, 874-9605. That's 874-9605.
All right, back with your thoughts on Auburn's first SEC win. Alabama's loss at Oklahoma next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 800-239-9569 if you would like to get in. 800-239-WJOX. Alabama goes down at Oklahoma 24-3. Greg and I were just talking a little bit more about some of the scheme and what went right. Maybe wasn't what as bad as they thought. I will say this quickly before we start going to some feedback. Do you remember the first thing I said to you when I called you and asked you if you had seen the game?
That you're going to throw up?
First thing I said to you is something you've already said on the show today, is that I don't believe that Milroe's performance was as bad as the general public is attempting to make it be. Was it good? No. Was it one of his better performances? No. But when you got guys trying to one-hand balls, and when you've got guys that are making sure their legs don't get hit on a screen and not even looking for a football, like those are some things that are unacceptable. He had multiple drops in this game also.
Yeah.
There were just balls in guys'
three
hands.
drops. I counted
bad drops.
At least 3. If you want to take it to 5, you could. Look, the 2 interceptions were bad, really bad. The last one I'm not putting on him. The one on the screen to the right-hand side, you just can't throw that ball. Like, you see 6 whiff. You just can't throw it. Throw it over his head. You know what I mean? Like, you see him whiff. It's fine. Like, and he's still, the defender was right there. I mean, as
playing
Jalen
devil's
cut it
advocate,
loose.
that's a quick decision. I mean, you're catching.
I agree,
you're
but
not even fully turning to throw that ball. You're just spitting that thing out there as quick as you can.
I know, and I watched it multiple times because I want to have the quarterbacks back there. I really do.
See, I kind of do.
I'm
more, but the block, I get it. Yes, I'm more frustrated with the intended receiver on that play.
The receiver, to me, is the most at fault. Number 6. Most at fault. Missed the block, whiffed it completely, but it happened so fast.
What about intended ball? What about intended ball catcher? That's where I'm going on this play.
I don't think he ever saw where. I honestly don't think he saw the defender. Like, I think, because you could just tell by his reaction, he was almost like stunned when he saw a defender there that flashed color. So I don't think he saw him.
See,
I don't think he anticipated.
We saw that different then.
Fine with that. He could play defense for sure. I think that, I mean, obviously all 3 are at fault for sure. I always seemingly look at it from the quarterback's perspective. That's where it starts. And if I'm Jalen and I watched the tape back yesterday, I am really, really ticked off at my receiver for whiffing on the block for sure. But I'm equally as ticked off at myself for not just airmailing it.
Well, he wasn't afraid to let his receivers know he was ticked off at him in the game, because I saw that on film. The body language was atrocious for the leader of the football team.
Yeah.
And we didn't even see the TV copy that had, I'm sure, 20 more minutes of that footage than we were able to get. So, but I can tell you this, like, you go at your receivers in a game on the field like that, that's I can't have that. And then we will move on to some feedback after this. The attempt at a slide tackle was freaking bush league. I don't know another way to say it. It was weak. It was pathetic. It was gross. There are words that are about to come out of my mouth that are not allowed by FCC laws. And I think everybody knows which ones they are. But you cannot be that guy. You can't. That's soccer expletive. You can't do it. You just can't. It was weak. To go over there and try to slide tackle a dude.
And you kick shins. Shins, you might break a guy's leg. It's dirty. Like, you kick shins, it's dirty.
Dirty play.
Like, I mean, go tackle the guy. I mean, I've seen guys' legs shatter on things like that, running full speed. It's just it's bush league. I agree with you completely.
Saw an A&M defense.
Leaders don't undress people like that. Like, leaders to me don't undress people like that. You know, that's a blame game. That's a finger pointer. You know what I mean? And that's it. Like, I went back and actually made it a point to take a peek at some of the stuff that was being talked about. And I don't go on social media very often. I didn't in this case either. I was able to find it in other means. Thank goodness for people basically telling me where it was. Very grateful to them. So I went back and watched it in the live copy, and it was bad, man. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. Like as a quarterback, you got to keep your cool to an extent. Like, hey, everything slides off you. You can ramp up your emotion from time to time, but you can't undress guys like that. It's just a tough spot. To undress guys is a different level. Like I can rip Damian to shreds without showing 1 ounce of emotion if he's my wide receiver. And believe me, I've done it. Or you go over and considering the fact that this is still a relatively young team at wide receiver, and you have, hey, bud, I need you to be better here.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're running a sluggo on play 41, and you run right into the defender. You just set him up on an underneath slant, and you're trying to release outside of him. Buddy, you cannot run into that guy. And I'm not yelling,
the crazy part about
emotion.
it, Greg, is you need that person. Like you need that person on your side moving forward. And the last thing you want them to do is to mentally sort of check out from what you two are trying to accomplish. I'm going to get one call before we go to break. Chuck in Coker wants to talk Alabama's loss. He's on the Buyers Right hotline. Chuck, welcome in.
Hey, guys, I've never been more disgusted in an Alabama team since the Mike Shula years. That was pathetic, and I don't even have words to describe how awful it was. You know, we even turned the game off in the early fourth quarter. It was so bad. But the thing that grinds my gears the most is where was the second half coaching adjustments? They weren't there. What type of coaching staff trots out the same schemes from the first half to the second half? Nothing seemed to work. And then you have Kalen DeBoer in the post-game press conference smiling, act like everything's okay. Hey, our receivers just have to catch a few more balls. No, the problem is we were woefully unprepared. It was a disgusting performance. And this is the second time this has happened. I can excuse the Tennessee loss. They're a quality team. But you can't do this against Vanderbilt and a losing Oklahoma team when you have the playoffs on the line. It is pathetic.
All right. Well, I mean, I understand the emotion. I do think defensively they made some adjustments in the second half. They played more 4 down than they did in the first half and went to a little more even stuff. And I think some of the pressures from distance weren't as much in the second half than the first half. But I get it. I'll say this. I know the mentality of Oklahoma last week. I know what they built this game up to be, and I would imagine that it was not built up in a very similar fashion in the Alabama football facility. That doesn't mean anything to anyone, but just to let you know what was happening and how things went. I'll say this before we go to break. All we're going to talk about, there's not going to be a lot of compliment in Oklahoma here, and they deserve a lot of it. Specifically on defense, there are a lot of good football players, man. Y'all about to learn 65 is a freshman D tackle in this league. People need to start talking about him as one of the better D tackles in this league. But nobody wants to talk about him. Ethan Downs off the edge. Kid's been a good player a long time. Danny Stutzman, good player a long time. Kip Lewis, good player a long time. But we haven't watched him here in this part of the woods. So all of a sudden it's like, who are these guys? They're not supposed to be good. Well, I'm just telling you, they got NFL guys too. And they showed up. I'm going to give you one thing that stuck out. I'm going to give you one thing that stuck out to me, Greg, about this game, and it's very minute and it's a little bit silly, but it's something when I watch games and I see it, it sticks out. And I'll tell you what that is when we come back next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Glad you're with us. 800-239-9569. We're going to continue to try to get to more of your feedback right here on Jocks 94.5. Don in Hoover wants to chime in. Welcome in, Don.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking the call. I know you guys didn't want to talk about that, the penalty and the play that much, but I have a genuine kind of rules question. Your boy was 280 pounds in high school, so I didn't get a whole lot of reps at wide receiver. But what takes precedent when a wide receiver lines up on the line? Is it what he signals to the line judge, or is it where he lines up?
It's where he lines up. Like, it's where he lines up. But if he's a little off and, like, points out to the line judge, there's a little bit of grace the line judge will show you.
Okay. On that play, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it was just kind of driving me nuts. But, like, the outside guy, 18, signals off the line. Ryan Williams obviously is next. He signals on the line. But the inside of him, Jeremy Bernard, 5, he also signals on the line. And my hunch was I thought maybe the ref just mixed up 2 and 5, and when 2 caught the ball, he threw the flag.
All right, Don, so I was with you. So I went back and had to find the TV copy of this because what I have, I wasn't able to see it. And obviously we mentioned a little bit more, you know, it was a little bit of like panic fire drill because you're trying to flip the receivers to the other side. Play clock's running down, quarterback's panicking. They all come running over there. It appeared to me as though all 3 gave a very similar signal when they readjusted to the right side of the line of scrimmage and came and lined up real quickly. Like all 3 of their signals looked very similar to me. And I just thought to myself, maybe that's the only thing that could have been taken out of context here and led to this. Either way, the call was a mistake. It was blown. We know that. But I noticed something very similar to what you did as well.
Yeah, it just kind of bothers me when I see all the reaction talking about conspiracy and refs blowing it and all that sort of stuff. So it had to just be a mistake. And I was just trying to find some sort of logical explanation. But
I don't know if there is one.
Appreciate the call and you being a little bit level-headed. And we would expect nothing more from a former offensive lineman. So
there you go. How do you know he played O-line at himself? You don't know.
He could have been a tight end.
He wasn't a tight end. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. He's not. He wasn't a tight end.
He could have played. He could have played quarterback.
He could have thrown shot. I'll give him that.
So here's my thing about it. Like, it's a human error. Usually we don't see things like that, right? Sometimes, they'll miss a pass interference. Maybe they'll miss a hold. Maybe they'll miss a face mask. You know, there are some things that happen when the game is going. It's 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm just telling you, as someone that's put on that referee uniform in a spring game, it's freaking hard now. It's really hard. And Cole, I feel like you did it too. But
I did it too, but I just don't think people care that when we tell them that.
I know it's hard, but here's what I don't understand. How can we not clean it up after the fact? Like, it should be able to be cleaned up after the fact. Hang on. Let common sense override the rule. He made the call on the field, but it was wrong. Let's fix it real quick. All we got to do is have the replay official upstairs take one peek at it. It'll take 2 seconds. Hey, you know what? Everything was good. They had 2 guys.
Essentially the Georgia-Texas situation, but doing it the right way.
Doing it the right way.
And it'd be known that it could happen that way.
Correct. But that's a judgment call. You can change the judgment call. You can't change the judgment call on pass interference. The Georgia-Texas, that's why it's different. Pass interference is different. That's in the line of fire. This is basically a procedural penalty that can be adjusted based on just take one peek at the formation before the snap. Like, just fix it real quick and let's get it right. Like, all right, we messed it up on the field. Let's get it right. Take a peek. Hey, you know what, guys? It was a clean formation. Look at this. They're good. They had 4 guys in the backfield. Look at 5s in the backfield, 18s in the backfield. You got quarterback, running back in the backfield. Yes, it's an overload protection stuff. It's overload formation, but it's good. Wipe it off, pick up the penalty, touchdown Alabama. Like, that's how it should have been. And it's unfortunate they couldn't do that based on the call.
All right, let's go to Kevin. He wants to talk Alabama. Kevin, welcome into the show. You're on the Buyers Right Hotline.
Hey, guys. How are y'all this morning?
We're doing great, thanks.
Listen, I just had a couple of real quick things. It seemed like on Saturday night when we handed the ball off to our running backs, we were getting yardage, especially Jan Miller. But we kept on wanting to go back to Milroe.
All right, well, here, Kevin, let me stop you real quick. Now, we talk about this in the RPO game. You've heard Greg and I have this conversation before. If you give the quarterback the option to keep the ball and throw it, what do you think he's going to do more times than not?
He's going to keep it.
If you give a quarterback that runs 23 miles an hour the option to keep it and run it, what do you think he's going to do more times than not?
He's going to run it.
Okay. So I do think a lot of this is coming down on Nick Sheridan, and I think he deserves some criticism for his plan. But when you give the quarterback the option to keep the football, more times than not, he's probably keeping it. That's life of a quarterback. That's what they are. It's in their brain. You can't get that egotistical portion out of a quarterback's brain.
Well, you can take shots by using trigger words like ego. That's fine. But I also think Jalen has a tendency to revert into hero ball mentality. Like, I can do it myself type of mentality. He did it in the second half against Georgia. He did it at times against Vanderbilt. He's done it at times against South Carolina. He gets that hero ball mentality where I'm doing it. No one else can do it. I'm the only one that can do it. And that has led to problems multiple times this year.
I think that's a very fair way to state some of how he handles some things with this offense. Because I saw a couple misreads, or at least what I perceived as misreads in this game by Jalen Milroe. We'll take your calls on the other side. Continue the conversation next on Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 9 o'clock, Monday, November 25th, where I am. It is not 9 o'clock where you are. It is 8 o'clock. I am in Charlotte getting ready for Read and React tonight. See if we can get Roman to break down a little Alabama tonight. Usually days like today, he'll throw in the towel and say he's not doing it. And I get all the Alabama stuff. He says, I'm not talking about that. So, which was what happened on the call yesterday. He's like, let Cole do it. I can't do it. Not gonna happen. I think we will talk about it a little bit tonight, though, either way. 800-239-9569. You want to get in? 800-239-WJOX. You want to be a part of the show. You can also text into the show, 205-834-9450. Tweet into the show, @MacandQ. Best way to be a part. A couple of things that I did want to hit just coming off this Alabama game quickly. Oklahoma gets bowl eligible with that win. There's now 25 straight seasons that they will be appearing in a bowl game. Second longest active streak behind. Anyone?
Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma's got the longest. No, Georgia.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Georgia. Oklahoma's first win against a ranked opponent this season. And for Alabama, 3 points scored, fewest in a game since
2004.
2004 South Carolina game.
Yeah.
They go to 8-3 on the season. First 3-loss season since. Cover your ears, Greg. 2010. 21-point loss. Largest loss as an AP top 10 team to an unranked opponent all time. And 2 losses versus AP unranked opponents this season. From 2008 to 2023, they had 1 loss in that span of such. So, yeah, there's some things that happened with this game that had not been taking place for quite some time. I do think some of that has been masked a little bit by some of Oklahoma's offensive struggles and injuries. Let's remember, this offensive line dinged up, wide receiver core really dinged up for a large portion of the season. They had a chance to be a really good football team. Fired offensive coordinator, so some switch quarterbacks at one time. Doesn't mean there's no talent. Doesn't mean there aren't good players on that team. CC in Montgomery would like to chime in on said game. CC, welcome into the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for what you guys do. Listen every morning, first time caller, but I just got one question. I'm gonna hop out of the way and listen. From a pure talent perspective, obviously we know Oklahoma's got a really good defense, but I think that just from what was shown on replay throughout the course of the game, it looked like they schemed up a lot of their pressure. It didn't really look like they were beating our guys like all that often up front, although they did a few times. But it looked
outside of right tackle, I would agree with you that.
It looked to me like in obvious passing situations, and sometimes in situations that weren't all that obvious, it was just they sold out to put a hat on a hat, rush 5-on-5, and try to get somebody free. I'll step aside and listen to what you guys have to say.
I think it's a great observation. It's something Oklahoma has been great at all year. If Auburn fans remember back, the Kip Lewis interception, pick six, that sealed the game, similar deal. You walk your linebackers up, simulated pressure, make people think that you're going to come from somewhere, then you don't. You waste blockers. There was a lot of that. And like I said, I think right tackle got beat individually multiple times. The rest were just misses. And honestly, I didn't think outside of what happened with the right tackle that the pressures were as much of a problem, Greg, of it wasn't just what they lined up did from a blitz perspective, but a lot of the stunts for Oklahoma just worked. And listen, some days it's your day. Some days your calls hit, and everything that you call seemingly, it ends up being right where it needs to be. I thought Oklahoma on the flip side of that, and this is going super surface level, ground floor, elementary, like just kind of, I know this is not like real X and O strategic here, but like sometimes you call things that hit exactly the weakness of the defense that's called. And sometimes the defense calls that hits the exact weakness of the offensive plays called. Trust me, guys, there are plays that coordinators, now they don't want to admit this and they don't like this, but there are plays that the coordinator will come back and say, you know what, guys, they got us there. We just got to come up with something else. We got to get out of that play. That's it. That's on me. Can't run that protection there. Or we don't even run in that direction there. They got us. And I saw multiple run stunts for Oklahoma. So one player penetrates, one loops around, and that loop man just standing there in the hole waiting for the running back. And it's not a busted assignment. It's not something where a guy went the wrong way. It's just they made life really difficult based on how that play was supposed to be blocked, and they got us. Now, one thing strategically, Greg, that I do think Oklahoma did a great job of, they were super aggressive on the edges. And to me, what I saw was Zach Alley and Brent Venables basically said, we are going to attack you off the edge. One, we think we have the speed and athleticism to be problematic, and we're going to force you to make decisions quickly. We are going to force that quarterback to make decisions, whether that's reading a handoff, whether that's an RPO, whatever it is. We don't want to give him time to think about things and process things. We want his decision-making to be sped up. And I think they did that. I think it worked. And I think Alabama could have widened the surface a little bit more, used some extra tight ends. I think they could have given some different guys help, but that's easy to go back in Monday morning quarterback. But to me, a couple of the things that they called just happened to hit exactly how they needed to. But then there was some strategy that I thought that they put in place that was utilized and worked exactly the way that they probably intended it to.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that you need to take into account is sometimes it's like just one of those days. Like I remember playing in games like that. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it just team has your number. I'm sure there's a reason why in the NFL, which has more parity than anyone, the Titans are able to beat a good team yesterday. There's a reason why that happens. The reason why it happens because sometimes it's just your day. The stars align. Like everything you call is effective, and everything the other team calls is seemingly ineffective. It doesn't mean that the coaches can't coach and the players can't play. It just means that sometimes they have your number. When you call a blitz, they have a screen called. When you call a wide edge rush, they call a draw. When you have a zone play, a play that's designed to beat zone coverage drawn up, they're in zone. When you have a play that's designed, or they're in man, excuse me. When they have a play that's designed to beat man coverage, they're in zone. It's just sometimes that happens, and it's hard. And you'd like for your players to not, not fall victim to it by making critical mistakes. Because let's be real, if there's not a pick six and a drive that starts inside the 15-yard line, it's a different looking ball game. You'd hope that those mistakes don't become catastrophic. That's the key. Like sometimes the other team wins, but those other wins on various battles throughout the war can't be backbreaking. You know what I'm saying? And
how about the exact flip side of this game, Greg? Jackson Arnold throws for what, 68 yards? And I know he had some nice runs, and he did. But what did he not? Sometimes, like you're saying, sometimes it's more important what you didn't do. What did Jackson Arnold not do?
People always laugh at like the whole notion of more games are lost than won. Like people always say, "Oh, well, hang on a second. What are you?" That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There are many, many times in college football in which that's extremely true, where a team flat out loses the game on 2 or 3 terrible decisions. Like, does anyone think that Kentucky really beat Ole Miss earlier this year? No. I mean, Ole Miss completely wet the bed because they missed a field goal, or they did this, or they did that, or they went for it and had a wide receiver lead blocking on a 4th and short. Like there's a million things that Ole Miss did that led to Kentucky winning that game. So, and this, unfortunately, in some cases on Saturday, this is in large part due to mistakes that were made by Alabama, but you also must at the same time give tremendous credit to Oklahoma for cashing in on those mistakes. Because
absolutely,
how often did Oklahoma force turnovers against Tennessee only to see their offense do nothing with it? You know what I mean? So yeah. I think that's big. You got to cash in when you're gift wrapped a couple things, and Oklahoma did that.
And that's what I was going to say about when I'm watching Jackson Arnold in this film. I'm like, you didn't really have to leave the pocket there, or, I thought you could have fit that one in. And it was probably the better decision by him not to do that. With the way the game was going, with the way the offense was moving, with how things were working in the ground game, how it was working with his legs, he made the better decisions not to do some things, and he avoided the catastrophic mistake. It's something I think Peyton Thorne's got a lot better at Auburn. Yep. And you go back and look at the last, 4, 5, 6 games. Not that he hasn't made mistakes. I'm not going to say he's played completely clean football, but he has avoided the catastrophe plays. And how many catastrophe plays did he have early in the season that cost them games? It just flat out got him killed. But he's reversed that a little bit, and I would say a very similar thing about him against Texas A&M. He avoided the catastrophe plays. And there are a couple balls he could have thrown. He decided not to. Pulled him down. Maybe it's a 2-yard gain. Maybe it's a throwaway. But sometimes those are the play that you need to make and to avoid.
The correct play.
Yeah, plays that are going to break your back. You can't have those. Dave in Hoover wants to chime in on weekends games. Dave, welcome in.
Hey, guys, 2 quick comments, one about Milroe. But first, that penalty with a touchdown was called back. I don't know if you guys know, nobody said anything, but I thought maybe he was throwing a flag for holding because the ball was in the air and almost caught when the flag was thrown. It's almost like the official was confused and said, wait a minute, somebody was covered up, and he threw the flag, but it was very late. I mean, it was almost –
It was super late. It was
that late. Yeah.
The ball was in I don't even know if it was in his possession yet, but I looked at the timing of that too. Yeah. I don't know if it was in his possession yet, but it was, you're right. It was not called at the snap.
Right, that's what I thought maybe it was. I thought it was holding. I said, oh, shit, the guy for holding, I'll call it back. The other thing about Milroe is, he did this against Tennessee, and, as a 5'8", 165 slot receiver in high school, I always loved to light somebody up, but it had to be a perfect angle and a guy that weighed my weight, right? Milroe had a perfect opportunity with his size, weight, and speed, and the angle he had. He could have lit that guy up and knocked him up in the bleachers. You know what? That had gotten his whole team fired up. But him sitting on the end of the bench by himself and sulking instead of getting up, and he did that against Tennessee, talking to a girl standing there. Don't know why, but he's sitting there twirling his hair by himself. I'm like, why is he not over there talking to the line, patting him on the back? Why is he not talking to his receivers? Why is nobody sitting next to him with an iPad? Don't know if they had him, but just talking about what he saw, what happened, what was going on. Twice that's happened. He's just by himself. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's the body language was something that we've talked about as being frustrating, Dave, no doubt. I don't think we're going to excuse that at all. Milroe's second career start without a touchdown that we're responsible for in his 25th career start. The other one was a Rose Bowl against Michigan. 12 of 27, 162 passing yards. He had no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and not his best performance. First Alabama quarterback with 3 interceptions in a game since Blake Sims in the 2015 Sugar Bowl against Ohio State. There's a lot to get to with it. There's a lot to talk about with it, and they did have the iPads. That's not really a question. But you're that guy on the team, Greg. You have to manage things and manage yourself in a different way. You're held to a different standard than everybody else. We can pretend like that's not a real thing. You have told us stories about Coach Saban. You laughed at me when I asked you one day. We kind of made it an off-season topic. You literally laughed at me when I asked you, did Coach Saban treat quarterbacks differently? Because I think a lot of people would assume that he would be the one guy that treated everybody on the team the same. And you're like, no. He absolutely dealt with us in different ways. It's just part of it. It's the way that it is. But I tell you, it's things like that stick out in those times of adversity that a lot of people remember. And Jalen's done a lot of great things this year. And people have sent me a lot of stats about, poor play, bad game. I'm like, well, what about the other 15 times this year we've talked about he's done things that nobody else at Alabama or nobody else in the SEC have done? He's accomplished a lot, but this is one that I think a lot of people are going to have a hard time forgetting.
Yeah, I don't really blame him. He's had a great season in many ways. The problem is it's the same thing dating back to last year. If things don't start well, confidence becomes a little shaky. He starts to press, and when he presses, bad things happen. When things start great, he's great, as good as anybody in college football. When things don't start well, it's not great. And that's unfortunate. It really is. That's unfortunate because he is a great player and has done a lot of great things. But yeah, he kind of goes, he's a very much a momentum player. And when things going, and that's great. When things are not getting going and he needs to jumpstart it, it's had a tough time doing that in his career. And it's unfortunate. It really is. It's unfortunate.
All right, so we'll continue your feedback. 800-239-9569. You want to get in? You can text in 205-834-9450. Damien, I imagine there are a couple of people that would like to chime in there and have their voices heard.
Absolutely. It's it's a jam-packed one. I will tell you
Okay,
that.
so we will we'll take a little bit of a break here. And the text line apparently is jammed with people. I guess they don't really want to make their voice heard, though, or else they wouldn't be texting into the show. They'd be calling into the show. But they do have opinions on things that happened over the weekend. We'll get to some of those after I tell you that flu season's ramping up. Make your home healthier with Trained Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. 100 times more effective than standard air filters. 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Train.com. It's hard to stop a train. More feedback from you. And whatever you have on this weekend's games, Alabama's win, or Auburn's win, Alabama's loss, we'll get to those next right here on Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:19 a.m., Monday, November 25th on Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. Watch us live on YouTube every morning. Search Jocks 945 right there on your laptop, desktop, and you can watch the show each and every day.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year. They have the best discounts. They have the best inventory. And they have the best service. You just got to take the short drive up to Coleman. To know that they're right here in our own backyard is great. And they can save a lot of money by being just outside of town, so they can pass that savings on to you. It's really amazing to see just how much they can do for us. And I know you guys will feel the exact same way if you just take the short drive up to Coleman and go see a GMC Hummer. Is it a GMC Hummer? I don't know. They got Hummers on the lot. That's for sure. And they're $20,000 off the list price. Other dealerships can't even get them. They're not only able to get them, but get them in bunches, and they're able to pass that savings on to you by giving you $20,000 off the sticker, plus 0% for 60 months. Take short drive up to Coleman. They also have the used car superstore, and you know that 75% of their business is repeat customers because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, you can always text into the show if you don't want to call. Another way to be a part. Give us your feedback, your thoughts. Tell us how much you hate us. 205-834-9450. Damian, what is happening via the text line? This morning?
It's very active. I will say that. 205-834-9450. Just like we had somebody text in and says, I was there. It was horrible. Flawed plan, no adjustments. 57 got whooped all game, drops. There was absolutely no flow.
Was that Conrad?
Oh,
no flow.
He was.
There really was. That's well said. Like, when you really watch it, if you're going to sum it up in somewhat generic way, like, a game had no flow or rhythm whatsoever.
None
I mean,
whatsoever.
the offense had no rhythm, no urgency. It was just bad ball. Back to the plan, though. I think the plan was not good, but I will kind of lament the fact that the adjustments weren't made. There were errors in execution more so than there were errors in the plan itself. In my opinion, I think there were a lot of yards left on the field, and coaches can't necessarily account for turnovers. I think that's a little bit of a problem as well.
We need a whiteboard up there at the studio and just have a list of things to stop saying. Like I did some self-scouting last week, and I noticed how I open the show every day, and I hate it. I despise how I say, all right, welcome in every morning. I got to stop doing that. We need to write that as number one. I don't know. It just doesn't sound good. We need to write that. Like Cole needs a new open. I feel like I need to change it up, be more creative. But
we're here and we're talking bow. We
By
could
the way,
do
I
it
feel
like we started our
really
first ever show.
today.
What do you think of Bill O'Brien's play calling? Like,
Exactly.
you could do it how we started it back then.
I feel like I've been real positive today. Trust me, there are a lot of negatives, and I know what people are going to say. Well, that's because the barn won. And you were wrong. And I was. I didn't think they'd block them. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I also didn't think A&M would come out and try to be an air raid team against Auburn. But, hey, good
Some
for
of us
y'all.
got it right.
We appreciate it.
All we need
appreciate
is
you letting
someone on the
Marcel
show to
Reed
see
throw
the field
58
the right
times,
way.
whatever it was. Good for you thinking that was going to work. However, also, the other thing that I think we need to just stop saying on a show in general is made no adjustments. Like, write that down on the board.
Right.
This whole guys, I can't tell watching a game live what adjustments are being made. We've got to stop saying that. There were adjustments that were made. I just gave you one earlier in the show, how they played more 4 down. They played more even front in the second half. Because Greg's okay with the little 3-man front thing they were doing. I thought it was dumb. I don't know another way to say it. Like, letting big guys that don't run or move very well be the ones that are going to run around and move around to make plays for your defense is just a bad idea when you're being run on. And when people are gutting you with gap scheme, it's an even worse idea, in my opinion. The other part that I absolutely
why are you pinning it on me like I
I
liked the 3-down stuff? I didn't.
You've said it 3 times on the show today. I didn't have.
I
a
did
problem
not
with the
say that
3-down
I
stuff
liked
they
it.
did.
I say that I understand it. I don't like how deep the linebackers were playing. They did adjust that in the second half, by the way. They weren't playing quite as deep. And I thought the safeties run fits on a couple occasions were not good.
Well, I don't know how you adjust that other than putting somebody else in the game. But
yeah, I mean, they were just played way too outside in. Like, they need to be playing it a little more inside out. Like, I wouldn't have been scared of there was a few different times, and I won't, we're not going to single out individual players or anything. It's not necessary. Just know that position did not play well. And honestly, that position had been playing really good football, which I think has led to the defense playing better the last few weeks. The safeties have really gotten more comfortable. But they were way more inclined to be thinking about the pass than they should have been in this game, especially when they're in the bone, in the bone alignment and shotgun, with 3 backs in the backfield. Like, why is the safety not hitting it up inside? Like, instead he's like trying to talk the quarterback out of throwing it to the X receiver. Get up there in the box and tighten it up. I don't care if you're playing him at 8 yards. Let him throw it over your head. Let's go.
The other part of what I noticed in this game, and I forgot to say it a little bit earlier in the show. This is like really elementary, ground level, surface level. I get it. Like, this is not X's and O's breaking downs. But a lot of times I'll watch a game, and there's one thing that sticks out to me, and it's usually an indicator. Like, it's not as accurate as the Rubik's Cubelic, which is below 500 this year, but I feel like it's pretty accurate in my brain. And when I'm watching a film, and a lot of times whether it's an offensive lineman like climbing up on a linebacker, and this can work both ways now, or even a tight end coming off the ball on a defensive end, or when a linebacker is running to take on a block, or a running back in pass protection, or even when a running back is in the open field and he's looking to hit a linebacker or a safety, things like that. A lot of times, Greg, when like ball carrier meets tackler or blocker meets defender, and you see that little initial pop of the helmet, and the person receiving the blow has a very different movement of the helmet than the person delivering the blow, who has almost no movement. And the person who is receiving the blow, that helmet kind of pops back real quick. And you notice it because it's the jarring effect of it looks different than one happens on almost every other football play. And it's just that little bah that you see, and that helmet moves backwards. I saw that about 5 times for Alabama players in this game. One time it was a tight end, which, by the way, Bauer Sharp, we've given you a lot of hell for not being able to block this year. You've come a long way. He delivered one of them. There was an Oklahoma safety that delivered one of them. There was an Oklahoma ball carrier that delivered one of them. I saw more of those helmet pops going the wrong way for Alabama in this game, and that's not something that I necessarily expected to see. For me, and it was weird because I talked to Roman about it last night, and we were just having a conversation about tonight's show, and he was like, I thought Alabama got hit harder. And I was like, it is wild that you just said that, because those little helmet pops are something that I notice in games. Who's delivering the blow, who's receiving blows. And for me, one thing that stood out was Alabama received blows in this game as opposed to delivering blows in this game. And I thought it was a big indicator of, like what you've talked about, being prepared, intensity level, just things of that nature in how this game played out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. They were on the receiving end. Like, there's no doubt they were on the receiving end of the punches. They were playing I don't know. The thing that was weird about it, man, it's like I would normally say they were playing not to lose when I see a performance like that, but it's not like they were passive. You know what I mean? They weren't like trying to. It was just a weird game.
Those guys played hard.
What's that?
Oklahoma? I think most Alabama kids played hard.
Oh, no, they played hard. Like that. It was not for a lack of effort. Like, usually you can point to a performance that's that substandard, and you could say, all right, well, they were unprepared. Like, this whole, like, they were unprepared thing is ridiculous. Like, I don't think they were unprepared. I just think they executed really poorly. I mean, that's not necessarily an indicator of a level of preparedness. To me, it's an indicator of the fact that they executed like crap, and it led to them getting pushed around. They're on their heels immediately, or it felt like, beginning with about the second quarter on. They only had 27 offensive snaps in the first half. The turnovers were a killer. You give them 14 points immediately just by giving it to them inside the 14-yard line and pick 6. You got finger pointing going on the sideline. You got guys yelling at each other on the sideline. You got people pouting with terrible body language. And whether you like it or not, like, as the quarterback, your body language does have an impact on other people's confidence level. Like, it was just bad. It was just a weird game. And it's just unfortunate that it happened to happen, in an environment where the other team's in gotta have it mode.
Yep.
With some veterans that could have been playing their last football game for that school and ending a bowl drought, ending a bowl run of 25 consecutive years, the second longest in the sport. You were going to 100% get Oklahoma's best on Saturday, and you didn't answer the bell, and you got smoked for it. That's the way it goes.
I want to come back to that, something that you have said about quarterbacks and quarterback play in general, specifically to this Alabama team. Damian, what else are people saying on the text line?
Hold on one second. Let me tell you about my buddy Ben Hedden of the BHAM Realty Group. You think about selling your home. When it comes to selling, you only want excellence. You need to give my buddy Ben a call at 205-568-2705 or go to bhamrealtyco.com. If you're struggling to get your house sold because the markets are changing every single day, you need an expert that focuses on adapting at half the time to make sure you and your squad come out on top. That's my buddy Ben Hedden, the BHAM Realty Group. You visit their website at bhamrealtyco.com or give them a call at 205-568-2705. Trey from Huntsville, he texted in on the Jocks text line, and he's pretty much on the let's burn this thing up now. He says DeBoer has lost the fan base hope already. I expect one more season out of him, and then we will move on. There's a decorated alumni coaching the Houston Texans right now that just lost to the Tennessee Titans that Greg Byrne needs to get on the phone ASAP.
It's a lot. I don't even feel like a lot of that needs to be discussed. But, yeah, moving on. Next.
Somebody texted in and says, Alabama has had a waste of a season. Not making a 12-team playoff is unacceptable. Losing in 2 teams under 500, one being Vanderbilt. We don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Lastly, the bowl game mentality will tell me all I need to know about this team moving forward. Michael from CL.
Neither team that they lost to is under 500.
Yeah, and Bowman, we've already said we're not gonna judge teams based on bowls anymore because that's different. Vanderbilt is 6-5, folks. Oklahoma sitting right there at 6-5 as well. So Tennessee, by the way, 9-2. If you're keeping track of that one.
Yeah.
What else are people saying?
Mac from Moundville, he says, I didn't like the DeBoer hire when it happened. I think he's a great coach. I just don't believe he's a great coach for Alabama. He says, Cole, you nailed it. That was a word I can't use right now. Attempt of a tackle, and it was dirty.
It was bad.
Yeah, you can't slide tackle, folks. I don't know what else to say. Like I don't know. How did the broadcast handle that? I don't know. What did they talk about it?
I don't recall, but I think Hurd Street was just kind of, I think you want to see more
because it was a massive swing in momentum,
right.
and Oklahoma scored on the play. So it's like there's a lot of other stuff to discuss there. I get that. I'm not definitely not criticizing them for not talking about it. I just didn't know if it came up or not. But that's it. There needs to be time spent on the fact that plain and simple can't do that. It's ugly, bad look.
From start to finish, it was probably the worst play of Jalen Milroe's career.
Yeah,
I mean, just being honest. Like from start to finish, from the decision to predetermine to throw the field hitch, to not even to looking at the flat defender came from inside over the tight end who was at number 3 in the 3-by-1 in the empty formation. He was at number 3, so the outside's 1, slots 2. The guy's at number 3. The guy that intercepted it left the tight end who was wide open on the play. And then you make the interception. Hey, it's a bad play. You take an angle and go try to save a touchdown. Go save a score. And to not even really make an attempt at a tackle is honestly inexcusable. And it's honestly the type of stuff that you lose the locker room by doing stuff like that. I mean, just guys are putting their bodies on the line, and guys are putting their bodies on the line on a play-by-play basis. And to try to protect people and to try to have your teammates back and stuff like that, that's a backbreaker. I mean, it really is. It's a tough one to overcome. And I'm sure there's a lot of regret in the moment. There's a ton of regret from Jalen Milroe for how that play went down. Like he's a human being. Like I'm sure he feels bad about what he did, but that's the one that will have a reverberating effect. And you can't deny that it was a bad moment, bad play.
No, I don't think anyone's going to deny it. And understand that it just didn't look good. Let me tell you, I've tackled a lot of game day meals in my time. Nothing compares to the flavor boost from Dale's Seasoning. If you're heading to a tailgate, this marinade is your MVP. I didn't even slide tackle those game day meals also, guys. Just 30 minutes with Dale's, and your meat and vegetables are going to be transformed from bland to bold, whether it's ribs, burgers, or even those veggies you're grilling up. Dale's versatility is a game changer, similar to a pick six. Make every bite count and score big with Dale's Seasoning. All right, we have not spent a lot of time talking about Auburn's win against Texas A&M. We will get to that right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. UAB takes down Rice over the weekend. It is 8:38 a.m. Monday, November 25th, right here on Jocks 94.5. 40-14. Both teams now 3-8. Jalen Kitten, 18-23, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Adrian Maddox, Tyjon Johns, Michael Moore all had interceptions in the game. 4-1 turnovers. UAB takes the edge there. They did have 11 flags, but they outrushed Rice 190-115, and they get their third win of the season. South Alabama smashes Southern Miss on the road, 35-14. They get to 6-5. They'll be going bowling. Southern Miss now 1-10 this year. Gio Lopez, quarterback for the Jags, 15-24, 193 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. How about this number? Fluff Bothwell, who's been great for South Alabama this year.
Really good.
104 rushing yards on 6 carries. Had a rushing touchdown as well. Jameel Pritchett, 8 catches, 102 yards for the Jags. Southern Miss had the ball for 38 minutes and 48 seconds, and South Alabama was just 3 of 10 on third downs, yet they still get a dominant win. Speaking of dominant wins in teams this year, UL Lafayette, Louisiana, University of Lafayette at Louisiana, University of Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. They beat Troy 51-30 over the weekend. Troy goes to 3-8. ULL now 9-2 on the season. Matthew Caldwell, 26-42, 230, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks for Troy's. 9 different players did catch passes. They spread it around a pretty good bit. But Chandler Fields had a big day for the Cajuns, 18-24, 323, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Troy turned it over 3 times, and they get the loss. So there's a couple other games from around the state happening over the weekend. We'll get to a few more as we continue on the show. But we've been talking a lot about Alabama's loss at Oklahoma. Greg, we have not talked much about Auburn's win against Texas A&M. I thought Auburn did a great job, number one, weathering the storm early. Texas A&M had not been playing the defensive front that they played early in this game on regular downs much this entire season. They came in, played some mint front, odd front, played a little bit more 3-down, and then a lot of defensive tackle movement early. I think the first 3 or 4 plays of the game, they twist their defensive tackles with the interior defensive linemen, and Auburn went to a little bit more zone stuff. It worked out well for them. They've got a little bit of kind of like a new, I don't know what you would call it, like almost like it's like inside zone, but it almost looks like sprint out protection a little bit, the way they just kind of like sift it over and allow it to kind of flow through. That was going for Jarquez Hunter early. I thought Peyton Thorne did a good job, like limiting mistakes. He made some good throws. His receivers helped him out a lot. I mean, receivers were huge in this game.
They've been really coming on down the stretch.
Yeah, Keandre Lambert-Smith's been awesome. Cam Coleman, big game in this one, which we've wondered, is that A&M secondary gettable? Do we even really know what the secondary is? Because the D-line's been so good. I didn't think Auburn would be able to block the defensive line and be able to manage that group for 4 quarters. They did a really nice job. Jeremiah Wright showed up in a big way in this game. Like, he played pissed off in this game. I don't know another way to say it. And since 55 has gone in at left guard, that's kind of been the solution. Like, that's been the answer. Dylan Wade back to left tackle, 55 at left guard. Now you've got your best 5, and they played a pretty good game. Also, now you take an extra offensive lineman, put him in number 42, line him up there at tight end. That gives you a little extra girth, a little extra oomph. And I thought some of the new things that Auburn tried to do helped them work out, and they found some things offensively. Defense gave up some explosives, but all in all, I thought did enough to go out there and win this game. A&M had it. I mean, ball hits your guy in the face mask to be able to continue the game, and you can't do it. That's a big win for Hugh Freeze and Auburn, GMAC.
Big win. I thought it was a long time coming, first and foremost. We'll start there. This team, they're just one of those teams, and they're a little bit, I would put Kansas in this category. I would put, I'd hate to put the Nebraska teams of Scott Frost in this category. But they're a little bit like, and your boy Pate says this all the time, and I really agree with him. The age-old notion of you are what your record says you are is really bogus. I mean, it really is. Because I think when you look at how they've played and you look at some of the metrics that they have, how they've played on defense in the front 7, the way they can kind of get after the opposing quarterback, how offensively they've had multiple opportunities this year to kind of round themselves into a really nice looking unit on that side of the ball. They're just much better than the 5-6 record would indicate. They've been their own worst enemy. So it kind of felt like this type of performance was coming against a quality team. And it's just nice to know that it wasn't too little too late, because there was a moment there where I felt like they were in obviously full control. And then all of a sudden it climbs back into it. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, here we go again, right? And they just stopped the bleeding at that point. And they honestly had to battle back to make it even a little bit more interesting after the fact. Like, I watched this game live in about 3 minutes left in fourth quarter through overtime. And while it was super impressive, it also it had the makings of the, oh, here we go again type of game and type of feel, did it not? And I think it spoke a lot to how far this team has come to not allow the, oh, here we go agains to infiltrate the sidelines mentality.
No, I'm with you, and I think there was a lot of good that came out of this game, and I agree with you too. We were just talking about teams in the break that are probably a lot better than they're getting credit for right now. And Kansas, I think, not only applies to your example over time, but also right now as far as how they're playing. Like Oklahoma's a great example of that. I mean, a team that's 6-5, you look at that and you say, oh, they're barely over 500. How many pros they got on that team? Wide receiver room decimated, moving DBs to play wide receiver, running backs dinged up, O-line. I think they played a different O-line combination the first 6 or 7 games of the season. They've been beat up, had to switch quarterbacks. But if everything's going right, they got guys that can make you look bad, plain and simple. You know, South Carolina's not a team that a lot of people would probably say deserves to be mentioned with some of the best teams in college football right now, but there's not a large handful of teams that a lot of people would like less to play. I mean, how many teams would you put ahead of them if you said you get to choose your opponent and that's going to determine how far you go in the playoff, or if you get to go to the playoff? They're not going to be at the top of people's list, that's for sure. So it is interesting kind of where teams are and how teams are playing right now as compared to maybe exactly what their record is, or maybe more important, what their perception of them is, which a lot of times is just people looking at the record and then building said perception. We know what the perception of Polar Bear Services is, though, GMAC, and it's always going to be good.
Well, Polar Bear Services always seemingly around whenever I need help, man. I always call Wes and the guys. They're always around to be able to help me out with a bunch of different things, whether it's a system tune-up, duct cleaning, repair, new installation of your HVAC system. And I don't know about y'all, my heater is starting to work, man. It's been cold these last couple of days, and thank goodness those guys have been out to make sure my system is ready for the winter months ahead and the cold weather that's ahead as well. So go and call them today. And remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, they can help you there. Your plumbing, that's a new addition they can help you with. Your heat or your air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, when we come back, continue talking a little bit of Auburn from over the weekend and get to our top 3 next right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. It is 8:50 Monday, November 25th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Get to our top three here in just a moment. We bring it to you each and every day, sometimes sports, sometimes not. You know, Monday and Tuesday, we usually go NFL just to keep you up to date on what's happening there. But I'd like to tell you about Gusty Goulis and the Gusty Goulis Group first. If you're looking to get into a new home, if you're looking to just find out what your home is worth, go to GustyGoulisGroup.com right now. You'll see a button at the top of the page. You press that button, very little information, find out the value of your home. Or just call 205-542-1996 and you'll find out why Gusty Goulis Group, brokered by eXp Realty, has over 835-star Google reviews, and since 2012 has been recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. Remember, Gusty Goulis Group has served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the Greater Birmingham area. They've helped my family. They can help you. Call 205-542-1996 or go to GustyGoulisGroup.com today and start packing. All right, top three, Damian. We know we go NFL on Mondays. What do you have for us today?
We got a little honorable mention. How about Denver Broncos and Bo Nix? They moved to 7-5 after knocking off the Las Vegas Raiders 29-19. Bo Nix 25 for 42, 273 yards and 2 touchdowns in the air. Overcame a 14-9 halftime deficit to get that win. Takeaway number 3: the Detroit Lions complete their AFC South sweep after knocking off the Indianapolis Colts 24-6. And in a surprising stat, the Detroit Lions outscored the entire AFC South in their matchups, 202 points to 25.
Yeah.
So
what's wrong with that?
Just a beatdown, just a complete decimation of the AFC South. But the AFC South will also make another appearance in this top 3. Number 2 takeaway from the NFL: the Philadelphia Eagles continue to win as they knock off the Los Angeles Rams for their 7th straight win in Sunday Night Football. 37-20, and Saquon Barkley just a measly 302 total yards.
Wow.
Yeah, 255 yards rushing on 26 carries, 2 touchdowns. Also added 47 yards in the receiving game as the Philadelphia Eagles continue their winning ways and controls in the NFC East. And the number one.
Put that on repeat for Wednesday, by the way, when we get about it.
Yes, sir. Keep it locked. But we all know what the number one takeaway is. How about those Tennessee Titans taking a trip?
It's not the number one takeaway of the NFL weekend.
It is.
It's not even close.
It is.
3 total wins,
the
guys.
AFC South leading Houston Texans had to take that beat down from the Tennessee Titans in a 32-27 victory where we saw Will Levis throw for 278 yards. Did have a pick six.
He's back.
Did have a pick six. But nonetheless, the Titans now move to 3-7. And with the Houston Texans now being 7-5, I'm no mathematician. I'm not a mathematician, but there's something telling me that there's still a puncher's chance. But nonetheless, we did knock off the AFC South leading Houston Texans down in
and didn't even wear a Texas
Texas
jersey today either.
No.
Levis was fine, but they ran the ball.
Yeah, Tony Pollard, baby.
You got after the quarterback. I mean, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions from C.J. Stroud. I thought that was the difference. Are you saying Levis is that guy now? Are you a believer?
He bought his jersey, Cole.
That was before he had to decide if he was.
What do you mean before?
It's a week by week basis.
He believed in him.
It's a week by week basis, but right now, absolutely, he is that guy. He is the guy.
Also, Tua went for 317, 4 touchdowns yesterday.
Yes,
Dolphins over the Patriots. Well, still, I mean, it happened. It was there. It was a real thing.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how this wasn't number one, just because if you were watching this game live, Cowboys Commanders was the most bananas final. I mean, I don't know what, minute and a half, 2 minutes of a football game that I've ever seen. Jaden Daniels, ridiculous, and finds a way to get him back in the game, then finds a way to almost tie the game, and then all of a sudden a missed extra point is the difference in the game, other than the fact that your onside kick is recovered and returned for I mean, it just the last minute and a half of that game was unbelievable.
Special teams is it's a third of the
Cowboys,
game, baby.
It is. Cowboys end up getting the win, but Daniels was pretty good, and obviously without Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush gets a win for the Cowboys yesterday. That was what I thought would be number one, just because so much was happening late. Should have known that we would go your direction either way.
What was more wild, that ending or the Oklahoma-Missouri kind of back and forth?
I mean, 2 scoop and scores within 3 series. I'd probably say Oklahoma, Missouri. But I haven't seen in the NFL. I haven't seen anything like that in a while. You're playing prevent defense, and I mean Daniels hits a ball up the sideline, and then you take it to the house. you feel like everything's good. You're back in it. You miss a PAT that doesn't allow you to be back in it. I mean, just ridiculous. By the way, I wasn't sure Terry McLaurin had that kind of gas.
Yeah.
To be able to turn it on the way that he did.
Dude, what?
Late in that game.
He can float.
And he caught it in stride. Like, he didn't break stride at all.
He had multiple defenders had an angle on him, though. And I mean, it was a lot. So he had 5 for 102 and a touchdown. All right, so that's a little NFL update. Keep you kind of in the loop of what's happening there, what's going around. We do that every day. On the other side, Tyler Watts, well, he was in Norman on the call for the radio broadcast of Alabama versus Oklahoma. What did he see? What did he observe? What did he like? What is he maybe ready to temper that some other folks are losing their minds about? We'll talk to Tyler when he joins the show next. A lot more to get to right here in the final hour of the show on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We'll jump around the SEC, a couple big national games. College football playoff picture looks totally different. We'll hit all of that and more next right here on Jocks 94.5.
Welcome back, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Jocks 94.5. Game day has been going on for a while now. We've entering week 14 of the college football season, but it's really like week 2 or 3 as the weather started to get a little bit cooler. Maybe you need some layers. You know where the game day headquarters is for me? That is at the pants store. You can go over there, check out the layers, quarter zips, sweaters, hoodies, you name it, they got it. They got those famous brands too, like Horn Legend, Cutter and Buck, Antigua, Gentile. Nobody does game day apparel quite like the pants stores. They can get you ready head to toe. Ladies, they got shoes, they got boots, they got rompers, they got dresses. It's getting cooler, so make sure you are ready for what should be a fun and festive Iron Bowl this weekend, but it might be a little chilly. So go and check them out. They got the clear purses as well. So you can go through security, no problem whatsoever. Free alterations gift wrap. It's also available. Zip on down to the pants store for all your game day needs.
All right, he joins us every Monday. He's a member of the Alabama radio broadcast team. I was in Norman for the game against Oklahoma. It's Tyler Watts, former Alabama quarterback. Tyler, just quickly, your observations from your perch watching this game in person. Greg and I weren't able to be there. What were your bigger takeaways?
It was a frustrating evening, obviously, where you really didn't have an answer. Once again, we were told prior to the game that Oklahoma offensively coming off the bye week, that they were going to run the ball. They had 60 snaps. They were going to run it 50 times. They wanted to shorten this game and try to reduce the number of mistakes that they made and just really bleed the clock, similar to what Vanderbilt did. Now, I don't think anybody anticipated their ability to do that, especially with a mashed-up offensive unit. I mean, I think they only had their starting right guard was the only one that had played in all 10 games this season. So no one really saw that one coming, but it was, needless to say, a frustrating evening, one where you left a lot of opportunities on the field early on especially, and just a couple of excuses just right out the gate. I don't know if y'all ever called a night game at Oklahoma or not, but it's the only place I've ever been to where the lights, and I think this played in early on, where the lights are in the corner of the end zone. And you saw a couple of passes early on that were flat out dropped by receivers, or they couldn't find the ball in the lights. Jeremy Bernard comes to mind where he's wide open and absolutely does not make a play. And I know everybody's going to be upset with Jalen Milroe's play, but early on I thought he was putting his guys in positions to make plays, but he just wasn't getting any help. And then after you miss those opportunities, things just kind of spiral on you as you get a little frantic because things aren't going your way and you don't respond to adversity well.
That was the key to me. I mean, I think Jalen, does he deserve some of the blame? Sure, of course. I mean, but he was not alone. I can promise you that. And there were a lot of guys that kind of took their turns and having critical errors in this game that led to it being what it led to. What was your impressions of the sideline? And that's, I think, what was most frustrating for most Alabama fans. Was the body language, the sideline, whether there was pouting or yelling at teammates or what have you. What was from your vantage point, what did you see there?
Well, Damian has a much better feel of what's going on the sideline, our sideline reporter, Damian Square, than I do, because I'm always trying just to watch the next play. But yeah, this is a team throughout the course of the season when it seems like when things aren't going well, there's not a lot of rah-rahing. Let's get it together. Let's get going. Let's rally together. It's more of, everyone kind of maybe even feeling a little bit sorry for themselves. And that's unfortunate to see. You definitely, that's not what a championship team does, is they look for ways to come together and to rally together. That is a little bit of a concern, but somebody's got to make a spark out on the play to generate that as well. And some of your playmakers are younger and maybe they're not the vocal leaders. Offensive linemen, Tyler Booker, there's not so much an offensive lineman can do to kind of get his offensive unit going. And then I'm going to flip over to the defensive side as well. If there is one thing that I get a little frustrated is a sense of urgency of getting lined up and ready to play the next play. And it was an overall theme all night long of late play calling or signaling coming in from the sideline, and you're really not ready to go at the snap of the ball. We've seen over the last several weeks, several timeouts burned as a result of not being able to get a play in and make the adjustments at the line of scrimmage as a play clock coming down. We've seen defensive linemen and everyone sitting around looking at the sideline as the offense is lining up and ready to snap the ball, and we're still not in a 3-point stance. So communication has to continue to get better get it out there quicker, allow guys to make adjustments before the play clock goes down, and so that you're ready to play ball.
Tyler Watts, former Alabama quarterback. He does color analysis for Alabama radio broadcasts of their football games. He's joining us every Monday. I think there are a couple of things to nitpick defensively. Greg and I talked about the plan a little bit. I didn't think the effort was poor by any stretch of the imagination. Saw some guys out of position, some guys overrunning some plays. There are a couple of things schematically where I feel like Oklahoma just kind of got them and had their number. What did you see on that side of the football?
Not a great night of tackling. There were several occasions where we would bring corner fires. We would wrap up the quarterback or get hands on the quarterback in the backfield and not have a chance to bring him down. We would bring safeties down, and they wouldn't make a play in the hole, extra yardage after contact. It just wasn't a good night of tackling for this Alabama defensive unit. And honestly, it's one where it seems like if the opposing offense makes a commitment to run the football, we've struggled a little bit with some of these concepts. Vanderbilt was a prime example. We couldn't get off the field versus them, and Oklahoma was no different. And, they punted their first possession and maybe had 2 or 3 more punts throughout the course of the game, but we really never had an answer. The game kind of played out differently because they had such a cushion that they weren't really on the field a whole lot in the second half. But we really struggled on that defensive side against a team that's committed to run the football, and that gives a little bit of concern moving forward this week in the Iron Bowl.
What about just kind of where things are with the coaching staff? Everybody is out and pitchforks and torches with how Kalen DeBoer has done this or done that or what have you. I think he's a phenomenal coach. Nothing's changed in my opinion there. But I do think that this season in particular has been a little bit of a process of learning about the league, learning about different parts of the league, places to play. For example, against Tennessee, they tried to use the clap and it was unsuccessful. And as a result, they had a lot of pre-snap penalties. Against LSU, they adjusted that and became much better, much sound with their operation. So, how much of this has to do with the learning that is going on with the coaching staff about this league and the challenges that it is to play in some places in this league as well?
Well, they've definitely made adjustments. We haven't seen near as many pre-snap penalties or post-play penalties over the last couple of weeks, which was a huge concern throughout the course of the middle of the year, where we couldn't get off the field because of just unforced penalties and errors that were made. And look, there's always an adjustment. First-year coaches have to be given a little bit of grace as everyone's trying to figure the whole thing out. And you don't go through the recruiting process. You don't get an opportunity to get your guys in through the portal. You're just trying to hold on to what you got. And I'm sure that there'll be an effort to try to beef up this roster next season as they get the full cycle to be able to add folks to it. But there's always a learning curve as you're trying to figure the whole thing out, trying to get your guys to kind of envision and be able to do what you're wanting to do. But at the same time, you got to play with what you have. And you're constantly making adjustments, trying to improve just the roster that you have. And I think that they've done that. And although we didn't have success in Norman offensively doing what we had done so well down at LSU, I still think that that's your identity. It's just a matter of going out and executing at a higher level and performing when the opportunities are given there. Y'all talked about this ad nauseum, I know, but one thing Jalen has to learn in this option attack is that it's okay to be a blocker. And I'm not talking about physically laying your hands on somebody. It's just with the read option, if they're going to commit 1 or 2 guys to you, let them take you out of the play, hand the ball off, and when in doubt, give it. This Alabama running attack was eating up yards, and that was the only frustrating thing that I had was just the inability to stick with it throughout the quarters. I guess they didn't listen to y'all's show last Thursday when y'all said run the ball, because it was definitely there throughout the course of the game. Even when you're down a score or two, that was your best option and best way of getting back into that football game. And then, a couple of negative plays because you decide to run sideline to sideline versus vertical. And you're behind the 8 ball once again and having to go for it on 4th down or punt it away, and you're losing possessions.
Tyler Watts joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline, former Alabama quarterback with us each and every week. I don't want to put the exact words in Greg's mouth, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. He said it to me live yesterday when we spoke. and I heard him say it on his show. And Greg, you can correct me if I'm misquoting you here, but he says that Alabama has become a little bit too quarterback dependent. Is that correctly stated, Greg? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I think that they have now reverted so much. And it used to be, for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, like if one part of the offense, if the run game's bottled up, then the quarterback could throw your way to victory. If the offense had an off day, the defense could shut down the opposing defense, the opposing offense. If for whatever reason both sides struggled, guess what? There's a Devontae Smith that returns a punt against Arkansas to kind of jumpstart the team and get things going in the right direction. That's the third phase in special teams. I feel like this team in particular, the last 2 years, because of how Jalen performs, they're kind of at the mercy of how the quarterback goes. And I don't know why that is, but I feel like if he doesn't have his best stuff, they're not winning. And if you look at the games they've lost, he's played poorly in just about every loss with the exception of Vanderbilt this year. So I do think they've become very quarterback dependent. Tyler, do you agree with that assessment? This is more dating back to last year as much as it is this year.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, kind of from your seat, how you see that.
Well, I understand what you're saying. There is no Devontae Smith on this football team, though. I think that you have a lot of really good playmakers that have the ability, when given an opportunity, to do some things. Against Tennessee, it was definitely the errant passes and the poor decisions that were made in the passing game that led to that loss. And in this game, in my opinion, it was the zone read was there. It's just it was a handoff. Give the ball and let Cam Miller and those guys run the ball, and you take away the two defenders that they have dedicated to you. And then when he does pull it down and run, you got to go vertical. When he goes sideline to sideline, he doesn't make guys miss, and he lost a lot of yardage of the way. Prime example, the first possession they had when they go down the field inside the 5-yard line, he gets them down to the 3-yard line, and he pulls it the next play and retreats and loses 5 or 6. If you can just cut those negative plays out, it's a whole different style of offense. And there were definitely the passing game was open. I mean, there were opportunities all over the field on the deep crossers. Middle of the field was open, and he didn't get a ton of help from his receivers. But you're always kind of dependent on the decision-making of your quarterback to put you in the right spot and put the ball where it needs to be. And unfortunately, that's where we are, because you can't just hand it off in an I formation and bully folks around. You do in today's game. You have to spread it around, and guys have to make plays that are open.
Where are you on a quarterback's demeanor, Tyler, and just how much that means, and how did you think about how you handled yourself when you approached your teammates, talked to your teammates, specifically when things weren't going great, or when somebody missed a ball or missed a block or missed an assignment? How important is that to a football team, and how do you view the quarterback's role when it comes to that?
Well, I'm sure Greg was the same way. I always thought that our job was to encourage everyone, be their cheerleader, make sure that they understood that you're going to pick them up or we're going to get them next time. You want to be the guy in the middle of everything, just kind of trying to be that leader. And the one thing that shows more than anything else is just your effort out there on the field. Running through guys, playing hard. You throw an interception, you try to lay a guy out as opposed to slide tackling him. Those are things that are noticed, I think, by your fellow teammates. And one thing that you can never allow anyone to question, and I would hope that no one would ever want to be labeled this, is just soft and not a fighter. Mistakes are going to be made by everybody, but the ability to come back and rally, be there for one another is always the most important thing for a quarterback in that position. And, you make mistakes, but you play hard, you fight, and you try to get them the next time. Right? Baker Mayfield is the best, in my opinion, at that. I mean, that guy's relentless, and he never quits. He never gives up, and I think that's respected amongst his teammates.
Tyler, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time. Always good catching up with you. I know the trip could have gone a little bit better for you, but we appreciate you hopping on with us today and discussing it.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
All right. Tyler Watts, former Alabama quarterback, joining us there on the Buyers Right Hotline with us every Monday. And just there are a lot of things that a lot of people didn't like about it, a lot of things that were frustrating about it. We have not heard from Kalen DeBoer. We haven't heard from Hugh Freeze. We'll hear some of the audio from coaches around the state, how they perceive this game to go. On the other side, like I said, there much more to it that we need to discuss, a lot more angles to it that we want to talk about as well. First, I'll tell you about game day men's health. If you are feeling on edge, if you're tired, if you're feeling grumpy, if you feel like you're getting poor sleep, you need better sleep, could be the effects of low testosterone, and Game Day Men's Health can help you with that. This is what they're going to do. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, schedule a free consultation today, roll on in. They're going to give you a free PSA test, free testosterone test, and get a baseline of where you are right now with your health. Also, everything that they offer, all the services, you can get 10% off of those by mentioning Cube when you walk in the door. Weight loss programs, they have multiple options for you there. If you're trying to get in and get the weight under control before the holiday season gets here, Game Day Men's Health can help you with that. No charge consultation plus the free testosterone and PSA test right out of the gate for Game Day Men's Health. A holistic approach to health and wellness. They just want to help you be better. And what better way to find out than taking advantage of that free consultation with a free PSA test and free testosterone test today by visiting GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Minimal upfront cost for all those programs. Remember that at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Schedule that free consultation. Talk a little bit more about those, hear from Kalen DeBoer, Hugh Freeze, and we will bounce around to a couple other games through the SEC and around college football next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9:20, Monday, November 25th. Jocks 94.5. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 800-239-9569 if you'd like to get in. You can also text into the show, 205-834-9450. You can tweet into the show at Mac and Cube as well. I have not heard from some of the coaches from the games over the weekend. Kalen DeBoer, just on his disappointment with how that one turned out in Norman.
Extremely disappointed, frustrated. Just, we worked, I thought, extremely hard all week, putting a plan together. Guys, good energy, excited to come here on the road. And, we got to play better. We got to be better in all ways. And there's some simple things, uncharacteristic things, I think, that happened early in the game where we didn't get the momentum on our side. And then really it comes down to the end of the first half, them scoring a touchdown, and then, the turnovers really kind of changing the momentum of the game there.
All right, Kalen DeBoer also on just those turnovers and how critical they were for the Crimson Tide.
Turnovers were going to be a key. We said that coming in. We knew taking the ball off them like we did early was going to be big, And in the end, it flipped the other way, and we turned the ball over. So credit to them. They did a nice job with their game, their run game, staying on the field early. In the first half especially, I thought, there's some things that we continued to tweak and adjust to do a better job against it and what they were doing there. But obviously the game got away from us and in the middle of the third quarter there.
Also, Kalen DeBoer, just on that play that we've talked about with Ryan Williams. It took a touchdown off the board for him, what the officials were telling him.
It was just, they said it was illegal touching, so someone would have had to been covered up, ineligible.
All right, so we've covered that one earlier in the show. You can go back and get the podcast there if you want to get it. Also, his message to Jalen Milroe on his turnovers.
I just felt like early in the game, there was different things. Drops, just flat out drops, balls we lost in the lights, just different uncharacteristic things, weird things that happened. And, I thought he was actually putting the ball where he needed to. We just needed to help him out a little bit. The screen pass, they jump it, and you have to assume that those blocks are going to happen and you're reading a different defender. But then there's the pick six that goes the other way, and, I don't know if he just didn't see him or predetermined things. But, there's still a lot of game left. And I felt like a lot of things he was doing, he was fighting and battling and doing a lot of things well for our football team. And, we just all needed to be a little better. So, I thought he kept battling. I looked in his eyes, and I think he's come a long ways all season long. And just the way he wants to go out there and keep leading the team. And, the guys kept fighting for him. And so that's just pretty much what I shared with him. Just, have no regrets. Go out there and keep swinging.
All right. What can a coach say to calm you down after a turnover, Greg? Is there a message that can be delivered that's going to put your head in the right place?
No, because you already know. You know what I mean? Like, you already know how mad you are. Like, you know. I don't need a coach to tell me it's okay. Like, I'm mad. I'm going to be mad. Like, nothing's going to change my opinion. And if I'm getting ripped by a coach, nothing's going to change my opinion there either. Like, I already know I screwed up. So I'm not one that ever really needed the immediate, arm around your shoulder, arm around your head. Like, I don't need the hug when I get to the sideline. Like, I'm going to go let my internal voice rip myself to shreds. But then it's over. I need to just kind of be mad for a second and then move on. That's how I always handled it. But everybody's different. And some guys need the little pick me up, and some guys need the little, need a little chewing. It just depends on the guy.
That's what always kind of bothered me about certain coaches and getting on guys. It's like I always feel like coaches should try to, and if they coach them long enough, should have an idea of the guys who are hard on themselves. And I was similar to you in that I was really hard on myself after mistakes, like really hard. And I would always have that mentality of I don't need people telling me how bad I screwed that up. Like I've already given myself enough hell for that. Like we've gone way down that rabbit hole. We don't need more. Also, Kalen DeBoer on what Oklahoma's defense did to make life difficult for their offense and Jalen Milroe.
I felt like there were some things that are pretty easy that we just that didn't happen for us too. Just short little concepts that would have moved the chains, easy throws and catches. Some drops early that take you off the field. Some third down conversions that we missed on. An explosive play where again the ball we can't find it. And those were some of the momentum things that early in the game kind of took the wind out of our sails a little bit. Put them on the field. They kind of start churning the yards on the ground, winning the time of possession there, and we couldn't get over the hump tonight, and that's the unfortunate thing.
All right, so that's Kalen DeBoer on Alabama's loss at Oklahoma. He also, we brought this up a little bit earlier, Deontay Lawson leaving the game did not help. An injury update on Deontay Lawson after the game.
It's going to be a lower extremity injury. We'll evaluate, further here. We're going to get back.
So somebody that obviously Alabama going to need this weekend against Auburn, a team that you would think going to go in with a heavy run plan, try to stick to the ground. I would imagine a lot of misdirection. I would imagine a lot of read plays, try to cause some of the similar eye violation and conflicts with what this Oklahoma team was able to do against Alabama this past weekend. All right, so Alabama 24-3 goes down to Oklahoma on the road. Jam Miller, 12 carries, 45 yards. Justice Haynes, 3 for 18. The team had 30 for 72.3 per. That individually is not going to get it done, Greg. 257-70, you're out rushed. That happens on the road. You're going to be in trouble no matter what else you're doing.
Yeah, and like we talked about already, it became a game where you couldn't really run the ball because of the decision making and the short fields and the deficit that you had. So everyone's like, well, run the ball. Yeah, that's great. If you're in a position to run the ball, that's awesome, but you can't run the ball down 3 scores in the fourth quarter. Right? There's just nothing you can do about it. So then the numbers get flipped and, things look substandard. Yeah, it'd been great to lean a little bit more on the run game in the first half. It'd been awesome. Like hindsight 2020, yeah, I'm sure they'd love to have been able to do that. But those that are saying there wasn't enough of a commitment to the run game, well, do you want them to just hand off inside zone down 21 with 11 minutes left? I guess I just don't really understand that thought process.
All right, so Auburn, on the other hand, gets their first SEC win, 43-41 against Texas A&M, gets to 5-6. They can get bowl eligible with a win in Tuscaloosa this weekend. Hugh Freeze just proud of his team after they were able to find a way to get this win.
Well, thank you, Lord. It's just he's good in wins and losses, but it sure feels better when you win. And it's been that kind of year where you just battle through and you fight through and you keep climbing cliffs. And the one thing that I'm so proud of is just our locker room has continued to fight, and no matter what people say, or they just have chosen to say we're going to fight to the finish, and the cliffs that we have to climb, there are opportunities. There are opportunities for us to grow, not only as players but as men, and I'm proud of the way they've handled that with our staff.
And then also Hugh Freeze just on his team finally finding a way to win a close game.
Well, we've gotten better, and our young receivers have gotten better, and Peyton's playing better, and we're taking care of the ball for the most part. But I do think there was I don't know. I think our kids have started playing with more of a will to win and believing that they can. Not sure exactly what caused that. I'd love to play some of those games over. I think we could be sitting here with 1 or 2 losses and feeling quite pretty good about the season, but we didn't get it done, but we did tonight.
All right, so Coach Freeze, on that game-tying drive that would send it to overtime as well.
We felt pretty good offensively all night, and they did some adjusting in the second half that put a little more heat on us, and I think they're one of the best defensive rosters we've faced. I mean, they can cause you problems now. And we lost some one-on-one battles in the run game against 5-man boxes, which we've been really successful at, and we were in the first half at running. But we did feel like we could move the football, and I think one of the biggest plays was Peyton's scramble, his willingness to pull it down and run and keep drives alive. But I thought we executed that with no timeouts pretty well, and really had a shot to win the game down there. We kept jumping off sides, which I have to figure out exactly what that hadn't been us all year, and they did present a lot of different looks where we had to check some protections, and I guess our linemen just got really jumpy at when Peyton was trying to communicate those, but had a chance to win it, obviously in regulation. Wish we could have done that, but it sure made for some exciting football for a lot of people to watch tonight.
And then Coach Freeze on Jarquez Hunter, and just the kind of fighter that he is for this Auburn football team.
He's a fighter, workhorse, Auburn man. Has represented a program in the way you practice and prepare and play. He's a joy to coach, and we're gonna miss seeing him run around in this stadium for sure. And but glad he can go out like he did tonight, and he was one of the warriors that made it happen.
I said last week, Greg, it needed to be at least 25 carries for Hunter if Auburn was going to have a chance to win the game. He goes 28 for 130, 3 rushing touchdowns, 23 receiving yards. The 3 touchdowns ties a career high. He had that against Mercer in the 2022 season opener. So big day for him, big day for Cam Coleman, Keandre Lambert-Smith. Auburn gets the win. And Mike Elko, just on how those explosive plays for Auburn were something that they did not need to let happen and were too much to overcome in the first half.
Yeah, the ball went over our head. I mean, it just went over our head. Like, you can't let the ball go over your head. I mean, it was 3 explosive pass plays. Just can't let them happen. I mean, you can't let the ball go over your head. One of them, I mean, if you want the specifics of it, one of them, we jumped off sides and they threw it up, and the kid made a play. We just got lost in coverage. The other one, they motioned, and we were very loose on the motion and let the kid run right down the field and get behind us. And then the third one, they threw a 14-yard curl, and we missed a tackle, and he went for 60.
Also, and then Elko on heading into this weekend, still having the opportunity to play their way into the SEC championship game.
I mean, this one's certainly going to hurt, and we're obviously extremely disappointed because, we had ourselves in a really good position, and this is back-to-back road games where we haven't been able to get it done, and so that part of it's not going to go away. But obviously, with who we play and what we're still playing for, obviously there's still going to be a lot of energy going into that stadium next weekend.
All right, so there it is. Mike Elko on that loss for A&M. Texas A&M is still going to be huge. Could have been a little bit bigger, but a lot's still going to be on the line. We need to hit a little bit of that, GMAC, as well as a couple of other SEC scores. We can do that on the other side. But first, we'll tell you about our friends at Wayne's. We know that Wayne's can handle the termites around your house. They can take care of the mosquitoes. They'll get your yard ready for next spring. Yards are going into dormancy. You need to check out Wayne's right now and make sure they can have that yard ready for when it does warm up again. But now they offered wildlife removal services. If you've got chipmunks in the house, birds up in your attic, nobody wants that. You don't have time for that. GMAC Wayne's can now help with that situation.
Yeah, they'll take care of the wildlife, which has been great. But all the other services are also excellent. No, hey, if the wildlife's trying to get in your house or the bugs, ask them about the EnviroPest as well. Safe, pet-friendly, child-friendly, and puts up a barrier around your house so that nothing is going to enter and nothing's going to make it out alive. So call them today, 866-WAYNES-1. That's 866-WAYNES-1. Or you can go online at callwaynes.com. That's callwaynes.com, and let Waynes continue to create your happy place.
All right, when we come back, talk just a little bit more about the SEC championship game scenarios. One team is in, and maybe a couple other conference championship game scenarios, as well as the rest of the SEC scores right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9:30 a.m. Monday, November 25th, right here on Jock 94.5. It feels like the postseason scenarios, Greg, a little bit easier to manage this week than they were last week. In the SEC, Texas has wrapped it up. They're going to be in the SEC championship game. They got Texas A&M this weekend, but a little bit more confusing for some of the other options of different teams that could find their way in.
The scenarios are impossible to understand.
Would you like to try to explain the Big 12?
Yeah, there's 9 alive
please?
right now. I don't know if I can adequately explain it, but there's 9 teams that could be playing next week in Dallas for the Big 12 championship game.
This is going
Reminder,
into the
there
final
are 16
regular season
teams total in their league.
Final regular season weekend, by the way.
Yes. There's literally like 8 games left and 9 teams that could be playing next week.
I mean, just incredible. That scenario in the Big 12 of exactly how things could play out. Essentially, though, for Texas A&M, you got to go find a way to get a win this weekend, right?
Win and you're in.
Yeah. You get a win against Texas, and you're in the SEC championship game. So, and this thing was we thought the picture was a little bit clear last week, but obviously a lot of teams just kind of didn't hold their end of the deal. And now it's not as discombobulated, not as many teams that are going to have the opportunity potentially to be able to get to Atlanta as there were a week ago. How do you think this plays out as far as what we get in Atlanta? We know it's going to be I'm sorry, I said Texas. We know it's going to be Georgia, by the way. I'm sorry. Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia's in. Winner of Texas A&M is in. That's
right.
It's pretty simple. Yeah, is it so I don't feel great about Texas this weekend. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't feel great about it. I think A&M's going to give them all they want. And if you told me right now, gun to head, who am I taking? I'm taking A&M.
Man.
Reserve the right to change as the week approaches, but like Monday here, initial reaction, Texas.
Yeah, you've been really good this football season of getting one fan base on your side, and then all of a sudden sneakily changing your pick on Fridays. You've
Not
been
last
really
week.
good
I took
at that.
Auburn from the get-go last week.
Yeah, it was. Auburn's got Vandy. They got this game, and then sneaky 9:48. No, Diego Pavi and Vandy winning this game, guys. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, this one I've felt this way from the very beginning. This one means so much to the Aggies, and it's going to be such an incredible environment, incredible atmosphere, and honestly, the one team I've seen Texas play this year with a real force of a defensive line is Georgia, and it didn't end well for the Longhorns. Plus, Quinn Ewers now a little bit of a shaky ankle, a little banged up in the game against Kentucky, like just something to be monitoring. And if he lacks some mobility, I mean, Aggies absolutely 100% have to have this game. If they win this one, they go to the SEC championship. They win the SEC championship, they're in the playoff. Texas probably can survive a loss here. I just think there's a lot of things in play here. And I think you're going to get the Aggies very, very best this weekend.
I would not disagree with that. And I think this is just kind of one of those, what's the word you would describe it like? Just the way it's supposed to be games. I mean, you get this rivalry for the first time in 13 years. You're going to get it at home. It could save your season. It could propel you to Atlanta, the SEC championship game, a place you've never been. Like this is just, and actually the SEC championship game stuff aside, but getting Texas as a member of the league for the first time at your place, it feels like one that's just supposed to go that way. And I think no matter what numbers people throw at you, no matter what matchups we talk about during the week, the health status of Quinn Ewers, he's going to have an MRI on that ankle. Obviously will have a little bit to do with it, but still, I mean, it's going to be hard to pick against A&M in this game, Greg, just because, I mean, there are certain games that you just feel like, I mean, I know people felt this way the first time Alabama went to Jordan-Hare. Like, doesn't matter. Don't care what the matchups are. Don't care what the records are. Like, Auburn ain't losing that game. Like, just not. And this is one that feels similar to that emotionally, the football gods, whatever you want to call it, it feels like one that's just A&M's going to get. And from a matchup perspective, I really don't love it for them. And from the defensive line standpoint, I understand what you're saying, but it's a good thing that 21-0 played well against Auburn, because they're going to need them against Texas, because Texas is going to bludgeon that perimeter, and they have got some guys with juice that can hurt you. You better be ready to tackle. You better be ready for one-on-one tackles, because that's where they're going to test you first and foremost. They did it at Kentucky, and Kentucky didn't have enough guys to get them down. And I thought Kentucky's defense did some good things early on, but that the way Texas and Sark work, if they can wear you down in a hurry, and they're going to make you run, they're going to make you run to the perimeter, and you better be able to play 4 quarters of it, because that's what they're going to do. I don't love Texas's physicality as far as their ability to just come off the ball and push people, because it's just not how they operate. I think they have the bodies to do it if they would have just let them be that all year, but it's just not who they are. They're going to make you run. They're going to make you tackle one-on-ones, and if you can't manage that, it's going to be a long day.
Don't disagree. I mean, I think all of what you said is 100% true, and I do think Sark will have do a good job of making sure, because while I think that there's good length in the secondary for A&M, I'm not sure that the best cover guys. Corner I think is a problem position for them. So I think that this is a game that can be won by Texas's wide receivers and won on the perimeter. But I also thought the game against Georgia could be won on the perimeter as well, and it wasn't. So that is something that would concern me if I were a fan of the Texas Longhorns.
All right, South Carolina took down Wofford 56-12, Tennessee 56-0 over UTEP, Georgia 59-21 over UMass. We'll talk more about Florida 24-17 over Ole Miss tomorrow. Greg was on that game, obviously had a front row seat. Texas 31-14 over Kentucky. Missouri took out Mississippi State 39-20. Mississippi State actually played well in this game. If you dive into it and see how they operated, made some critical mistakes, but they had Missouri limping a little bit in this game early on. Arkansas took care of Louisiana Tech. Big day for Taylon Green in that one, 35-14. And LSU held off, and I do mean held off Vanderbilt 24-17. And we'll get to in-depth more on all of those, what we saw from the film and whatnot on tomorrow. But when we come back today, we will give you a bad box score of the day. First, we'll tell you about Backyard Adventures. We've got the playground in my backyard. They came and put it together. That was the best part. I didn't pick up a single tool. Went and saw them at Cahaba Valley Road, saw the different options that they had, let the kids jump, climb, swing, slide on all their different options. And the next thing you know, it's in my backyard. The kids love it. They play on it all the time. And I heard Greg talking about the basketball goal. We had to get one, but it's been great for you guys, GMAC.
Yeah, it's been awesome. We were actually out there shooting hoops yesterday. It was such a nice day. Spent quite a bit of time outside. Basketball season quickly approaching. Vince all fired up about it, so we had to go out and practice. And we had a lot of fun. Thanks to our friends at Backyard Adventures. You can go see them off Cahaba Valley Road, or you can go online at backyardalabama.com.
All right, when we come back, bad box scores of the day next. Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 10:48 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. G-Mac, Christmas right around the corner. Folks need to start heading over to Bromberg's now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we are quickly approaching the holiday season. You might want to head over to Bromberg's and get things taken care of. It's so good to know that you have the best service, the best sales staff, and the best options when you go and check out Bromberg's. You'll walk in the door. You'll know what I'm talking about. They just treat you like family. It's an elevated experience that you'll only find at Bromberg's. In Mountain Brook Village and the Summit, they set the standard in fine jewelry, watches, giftware, and the best in customer service. They also have multiple trunk shows coming up here in the next few weeks. And you can put together wish lists. You can do all kinds of stuff in there as well. So just go check them out in Mountain Brook Village and the Summit, or you can always shop online at brombergs.com.
All right, let's get to our bad box scores of the day.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
Intentional grounding, offense number 7. It's a 10-yard penalty. I'm talking to America here, excuse me.
That's the game.
I feel like maybe a couple of updates that I didn't get to just yet. Alabama A&M took down Mississippi Valley State 49-35. Cornelius Brown, 5 touchdown passes, 1 interception, threw for 252. He's 19 of 28, rushed for 24 yards as well. Donovan Eaglin, 14 for 105, 2 touchdowns rushing. Prairie View went down to Alabama State over the weekend, 9-6.
There we go.
In baseball?
Defense.
That's football.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But Alabama State gets to 6-5, 230 total yards to 197 total yards. Nonetheless, the College of DuPage, they are the
DuPont.
No, they're the Cavaliers.
They're not.
Dogs.
Chaparrals?
Oh,
yeah.
Chaps.
Right there, yeah.
There you go. They knocked off the Community Christian College of Michigan.
They're the Timberwolves.
They're not.
The Wolverines.
Bearcats.
No, they're actually the Lions. Easy.
Weak.
Boring.
Yeah.
Why is it weak?
Dumb.
It's supposed to be
Lions.
fun. They just have a
King of the
lame
jungle.
mascot.
Pretty strong mascot.
Right.
Like, where did you want him to
Talking
go?
about?
Give him a
Scar
little
got
bit of
taken out
respect.
by Timon and Pumbaa, please.
Dumb.
Okay. Well, it wasn't a good one as the Lions were not the king of the football field as they lost 63-0.
Oh.
See? Told you it
boy.
was weak. Soft.
501 total yards for College of DuPage, the Chaps, as Greg threw in there. 250 yards passing, 251 yards rushing. You talk about balance, folks.
Balance.
There it is. Every single bit of it. 4 sacks in the game. They recovered 4 fumbles in the game. And Justin Bland, 14 of 25, 250. 5 touchdown passes, 1 interception for the Chaps. And then rushing, they had 5 players with over 60 rushing yards in the game. So they spread the wealth in a lot of different places. Also, 5 different players caught all 5 of those touchdown passes.
There we go.
So
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Depth.
I mean, listen, isn't that the way you want it? It's the way it's supposed to be, right? The
I think
Chaps get it done. You spread the wealth.
Everyone got it. Parody.
Well, I didn't know that was the way that we necessarily wanted to throw that around. Okay, go to basketball on the men's side. The Lafayette, not ULL,
Not the Cajuns.
Oh.
Louisiana of Lafayette, just the Lafayette.
The Lafayette.
That's a curveball.
They're not the curveballs, no.
Oh.
Explorers.
No. They're the Tigers.
The corn dogs.
Close. Leopards.
Ooh.
Ah, come on.
They took on the Rosemont.
They are the Pedals.
No, they're the Warriors.
No.
Let's say the Renegades.
Close. Ravens. The Lafayette Leopards
Very
just
close.
snuck past the Rosemont Ravens 91-45.
In a basketball game.
So men's basketball game, correct.
Solid
yes.
double up.
They shot 15 of 39 from the floor.
Okay.
They did put up 14 threes.
There we go.
Okay.
All right.
No, we made 2.
Oh, okay.
All right.
They were out-rebounded 46-23.
All right. So no
Another
hustle
double.
and missed shots. I see.
They turned it over 23 times.
There's a recurring theme.
Your Lafayette box score looked like 35 of 69, which is 51% from the floor. They shot 33 threes and were able to knock down 12.
Okay.
All of that said, after going 9 of 19 at the free throw line.
Ugh.
Still.
In public.
I mean, but you won 91-45, and you went 9 of 19 from the free throw line.
It was a struggle blowout. That's what it was.
You can let them have something.
It was a struggle blowout.
Just something.
Well, just said right then and there, hey, it's could have been a lot worse, but, you guys can't make free throws. So,
wow.
If we can get that figured out, might be a pretty good basketball team moving forward, moving ahead.
Probably not.
No? Craig's down.
A little more to it.
Did you guys see the Missouri basketball score from yesterday?
Yeah.
They are the Tigers. We know that. They took on Arkansas Pine Bluff.
They're also the Tigers, aren't they? Or Golden Tigers?
Lions?
Bears.
John?
Are they Golden Tigers? Or?
Golden Lions.
Golden Lions.
Yeah, they're now 1-6 as Missouri knocked them off 112-63.
Okay.
Yeah.
They hit 9 of 28 threes. Missouri, 9 of 32 from behind the three-point line. They shot 37 of 71 from the floor. The rebounding differential just 50-32.
Okay.
Just.
So, a little bit better on that there, yeah. All right, those are your bad box scores of the day. We'll be back tomorrow, talk other games around the SEC, what's next for Alabama and Auburn, and the college football playoff picture, which Greg will be on tomorrow night's college football playoff ranking show. One that I'm sure will have absolutely no controversy whatsoever. 3-man front coming at you next.